Hello everyone. This is a Copilot masterclass, particularly Microsoft 365 Copilot. In this first masterclass, we will focus on how you can access Copilot in different Microsoft 365 productivity applications. You can see that on the left hand side. I've laid out all the 10. I think I made 10 different sections on how you can use Copilot in these applications. Um, just want to highlight one particular fact that Copilot is changing every day. So maybe if you watch this 6 months down the line or 4 months down the line, there may be new capabilities added to these existing features, what you see here. My intention is to create a version 2 or version 3 in the future as well, as and when we have enough capability added into these applications so that I can go and make further masterclasses. If you watch this video, there are different sections talking about Copilot usage in different application. This video is primarily catered towards users who are trying to understand where they can access Copilot in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Loop, Outlook, whiteboard, etc. And once they find it, what are the first things they can do? I will give you some tips on some of the starter prompts, not complicated prompts, like how to start creating content with Copilot, or how to analyze content with Copilot, or how can you find some work related data within the M365 Copilot app, things like that. So that is the intention of it. Just think of this video as the starting point. If you are quite advanced, look for other videos in the platform, or look for Microsoft Garage, or look for my next video on the next iteration on this masterclass. I hope you enjoyed this masterclass. Take care. In this video, we're going to learn how can you use Copilot effectively in Microsoft Word. Let's begin. We are going to start with learning how to create a new document with Copilot in Microsoft Word. So there are a couple of ways you can do it. You can either go to the FAT client and open up a new Word. And when you launch the Word, if you have Copilot enabled or Copilot license available in your tenant, you will start seeing this draft with Copilot. Additionally, you will be able to see a Copilot button on the ribbon as well. So you can always click on this button, which automatically pops up this chat area where you can do other activities as well. So we will come back to this particular portion later. Other way of accessing is to go to portal.office.com and go to Word Online. Open a blank document to create a new document. Again here, just like your FAT client, when you launch Word Online, you will see this Copilot option, draft with Copilot, and on the ribbon, you will again see the Copilot. You can use this chat option to ask questions and write documents and summarize the document, etc. So let's go back to the FAT client. So I'm going to draft or create a new document on the cost, benefits, and considerations for installing solar panels on home. So that's the prompt I've provided. To get most out of Copilot, you have to be more specific and descriptive. I will create a separate video on prompt engineering and the best way of prompting to get the best result out of Copilot in a separate video. But here, I'm going to provide additional details like provide an introduction at the beginning of the document and a summary at the end of the document, and include a table of content. So I've been very specific on what I want. So after you provide your prompt, you can click on generate. You can see that it's already started creating the content for me. So there is table of content. It's already generating content based on what they have put on the table of content. It includes cost of solar panels, benefits of solar panels, considerations of solar panels, etc. So let's wait for it to complete. So once it finishes, you can see that at the bottom of the screen, you get a new option. So you can go through this document, and if you don't want Copilot to add more details, you can click on keep it, and then you can start editing on top of it. Or you can click on this button that is going to regenerate the content in a different way. Or if you want to start from scratch, you can click on this delete button and you can start from scratch as well. What I like about Copilot in Word is this option. you can ask additional details. So for example, if you want to make this document more formal but you like the content, you simply type make it formal and click next. So that prompt will again go through the same content and make it a bit more formal. So we haven't reviewed the document which it created, but you get the idea, right? So you can add additional prompts on top of what you have already given and you can tweak the document. So I'm going to wait for this to complete and I'm going to click on keep it. So I have created a draft from a blank document. All I had to do was ask Copilot with a prompt on what I need, and I was very specific on what I need, and I got a draft document. So that's how you create a brand new document from scratch. Now that we have learned about how to create a brand new document using Copilot in Word, let's go and learn how to modify an existing document with Copilot. Another thing what you can do with Copilot is to add more details with the assistance of Copilot or modify. Let's just suppose I'm going through this benefits of solar panel. I'm not particularly fond of what I got here. So if I want to add more details, but I don't know where to start, I can simply select the part of the document which I want to be changed or modified. All I have to do is select that part. Whenever you select something, you will see on the left hand side of the document the new Copilot icon popping up. Or if you go to a brand new line, this Copilot button starts showing up as well. So simply click on this button and you can select like rewrite with Copilot, or I can say that visualize as a table. So I just selected visualize as a table. So immediately it start generating this content in a table. So you can see that it start modifying the content and putting in a nice table format. So if this is what you prefer, you can keep it. Other option is I'm gonna go to a new line and I'm gonna click on Copilot again. I'm gonna select a new option called Inspire Me. What it does, it goes through the content and it starts generating an updated content for the user. So for whatever reason you feel like the information what you got from Copilot was not accurate, or you want some more additional detail, or you want it to go and fetch new information for you, you can always click on Inspire, and this goes and update the content by just looking at the existing content and update it for you. So if you prefer the updated content provided, you can click on keep it, or you can click on regenerate, or you can delete it. So these are some of the additional things what you can do. Another thing is anytime you want to add any modification to the existing content, you can go to a new line and click on this Copilot button and you can start drafting a new content by adding new prompt, or you can reference a document. We will come back to this later, or you can always click on Inspire Me to refresh or update the content, or you can simply select a part of the document, select Copilot. You can visualize as a table, or you can rewrite with Copilot as well. And that provide you with different options. So here in this particular example, you can see that Copilot provided me three different options. So before replacing, I can actually go through three different style of writing. I can pick the one which I am after. So once you select the right one, you can click on insert below. Additionally, you can regenerate, and you have a tonal option as well. So the option what I have selected now is the neutral tone. But if you want to make it as professional or casual, or if you want Copilot to be more imaginative and start adding content from search, you can select that, or you can be concise as well. So there are various options you can select within the Copilot to create the document what you're looking for. Another useful use case for using Copilot is to analyze an existing document. So there are certain times where you just want to get a quick summary and you want to go through a document and gain certain insights. You could use Copilot to do that. So let's go and learn how to do that. So here I have a Contoso marketing plan document, which include information about a marketing plan, the different target market, some marketing objectives, strategies, some budget and cost analysis, implementation plan, evaluation, and etc. So it's a huge document. So the objective here is to quickly analyze certain things. So to do that, I'm gonna click on this Copilot button in the ribbon. So go and select that. When you do that, that immediately open up this chat area where you can ask different things to Copilot while it retain the context of the document what you have opened here. So this Copilot button have access to all the content what it is opened here. So I can start asking question. So I'm reviewing this document for the first time. So I want to quickly ask Copilot, what is the target market for Contoso? So rather than reading the whole document, I'm just going to simply ask this as a prompt and click on send. So that is going to start generating the response for me. So the Copilot is start looking for things in the document related to the question I have asked. So the response is according to this document, the certain sectors where Contoso operates large enterprises, mid-sized companies, startups, etc. So these are some of the information related to what it is available in this document. So if you look at the target market on the left-hand side, you can see that there are a lot of text, but it gives me a nice summary and bullet points where I can quickly just go through and get what I'm looking for. And additionally, Copilot will give me some references as well. So you can see that after um, generating some content, you have to be always watchful of these references. This will be highlighted in numbers. And and when you read these answers, you know that this is where Copilot got this particular response. So while reading it, you are particularly interested to read or understand more about it, or and that takes you to the portion of the document where Copilot got that particular information. So you can have a further read on that. So references are very important, and I always use it all the time to gain more understanding. Now that I know what is the target market for Contoso, I want to ask another follow-up question. So you can see that Copilot already started giving me some questions I could potentially ask, like what is the purpose of Contoso's marketing plan? What is this company? Overview of Contoso, things like that. So you can simply click on this question and you can start asking follow-up questions. So I'm gonna ask a question like, what are the marketing strategies for Contoso? So click send. So Copilot is looking things over and getting a response for me. All right, it almost finished up. So while generating, you can always stop generating if you want to quickly have a read on what it is generating. So let me scroll through to find out the response for my question. So I asked what are the marketing strategies. So I can click on strategies on the document itself and read it. It's quite text heavy. I just want a quick summary, so that's why I asked this question. So according to this document, their strategy is to focus on product, price, promotion, place, people, etc. And it gives me a nice reference point to refer back to these topics which I asked for further read and study. So that's quite cool. So if I need any of this information on any other place, like I want to draft an email to somebody, I can always copy this points and send it over. And another option is there is a detailed reference section as well. So you can always click on this reference section, and that gives you pointers on where this content come from, and you can expand it further to actually go and read a quick summary. So imagine this is a quite a long document with hundreds and thousands of pages. These reference points and references are very useful for quickly highlighting and scan through things over. Another thing what I can do with Copilot is I can ask Copilot for additional questions, like summarizing a document. So rather than going through 20 or 100 pages of a document to gain an understanding about what it is, you can click on Copilot, and right at the top, you will have this option. Most of the Copilot starts with, if it is a huge document, it starts with a summarize the document. Or if you don't find it, you can simply You can simply type and you can ask the question as well. What it is doing right now is Copilot is scanning the whole document and giving me a quick summary of what it think it's is the summary of this document. So rather than going through heaps of lines in different pages, I can probably take a minute or so to just read and understand what this document all about. Additionally, this gives you an option for different reference points. We talked about you can copy this content and you can share it with your team or email it. That's a quick way of getting it in a nice format rather than you writing it. And you can use additional formats as well. So here you can see that do you want this summary to include more details, or do you want Copilot to make this summary shorter? So let me quickly try the shorter one. All right, so that's a quick look at how you can use an existing document uh, and gain a quick summary within no time. The summary is good. What if you want to amend some data or details to the existing document? So you are reviewing this document, you have a lot of content, and you are not particularly fond of the conclusion what it is provided in the document. So you want to rewrite something. So you can simply select the content what you are seeing. So I'm gonna select a section of the document and click on Copilot. And here this time I'm gonna use rewrite with Copilot. So Copilot is going through or scanning the particular section of the document, and I found this third option or the second option much better than what it is provided in the document. So I can replace it, or I can simply click on insert below. So that automatically added that particular section of I'm just going to quickly delete it. Click on Copilot, rewrite. This time, instead of inserting it, I'm going to replace it. So that particular section is being re-added while deleting the existing highlighted one. So click on replace. It changed the existing content. Yeah, that's how you can use an existing document and perform certain things like summary, analyze, ask further questions to gain more insight, etc. Now let us go and learn about how can you use Copilot to format a document. This is very handy if you are not really good with formatting, which I'm not. So I use this particular option a lot. All right, so let's learn how to format a document. So this is a text heavy section. Let's suppose if I want to visually change the text, what it is written in this document in a different format. Select the section you want to format it, click on this Copilot and click on visualize as a table. So rather than me creating a table option of this document, I don't even know how much time I would take. This is quite handy and very useful, and I didn't even know how to actually use the table layout and put it in a nice format and things like that. So if I want to keep it, I can keep it. That's a nice way of formatting things. Another formatting tip is you can use this Copilot button and you can ask certain formatting questions as well. So I'm going to ask, what font should I use to make this document more readable? So let's see if this is picked by Copilot. Already my document is in a readable format. It gave me an article which says make your Word document accessible to people with disabilities, which is quite useful. So I can click on this article and understand what are the fonts which I should keep in mind if I'm writing this document for anybody who in need for an accessibility requirement. And it includes best practices on how to fix it, what are the common things I should avoid, etc. So this is quite useful. Another thing, if you notice, when I launched this Copilot chat, is in the context, it is saying that it is using this document. So any question what you ask here, it is going to use the data of this particular document to give you a response. But you can change it to your organization data as well. So you can use this to ask additional question, fetching details across your organization's files and data. The next use case is transforming a document to an email with Copilot. This is quite simple and very effective. Let me quickly show you how to do that. So you have this huge document and you are trying to send somebody and some information about this document, but you want a starting point for that. So you can use Copilot. Click on this Copilot chat option and you can ask things like, so Copilot is scanning through the document and basically creating a quick email with all the details relevant what Copilot thinks about this particular document, which you are planning to send to somebody. So you have to always take these details as like a starting point. Don't actually copy and send it outright, but you know that it actually gave you a good starting point. So let me quickly copy this and create a new document, or like let's go to Outlook itself and I'm gonna paste what I got from Copilot. So this is a great starting point, right? So modify the recipient details. If I don't like the salutation, what it is mentioned here, I can modify it and put up my signature and add few details and send it across. So this hugely increased the productivity in terms of time saving, efficiency, things like that. I'm sure you have already seen quite a lot of use cases where you could potentially use Copilot in your day-to-day activity. So that's how you can quickly transform a document into an email. So those were the key features of Copilot in Word. Now I'm going to give you some extra prompt to try in your day-to-day activities when you used Word. I'm going to launch the Word, use a random document, and let's try some certain prompts. So I'm going to predominantly use this button. This is the Copilot button within Word itself. So click on that. That open up the chat window. You can basically ask a lot of questions on this particular section. So first I'm going to ask, explain this document in 3 sentences. I know that this document is 11 pages, so I just want to quickly get a summary of that in 3 sentences. Let's see if this works. It highlights that this document is a marketing plan for Contoso, a data-driven analytics. I don't want to read it, but mostly it gives me a quick a three. Oh, actually, it is a 3 sentence summary. That's quite cool. And if something catches my eye, I can always go and ask additional questions on top of the response I got. So that's good. Let's try something else. Let's go and find a section. So there is marketing strategy. So I'm going to try a new prompt here. List the pros and cons of marketing strategies. The response isn't based on this particular document. This is basically telling me the pros and cons of marketing strategies. I think I should be more specific. Let me be a bit more clear in the question. So I'm going to ask. So this time I reformatted the question and I asked, list the pros and cons of different marketing strategies mentioned in this document. Hopefully it picks up the content which is mentioned in this document. Let me quickly go to marketing strategies. I have a good amount of blurb here. Let's see if Copilot scans through it and find some pros and cons of things which is highlighted here. Wow, so it was not Copilot issue. My question was very generic last time. I basically asked list the pros and cons of marketing strategies. That's a very vague question. So I changed the question to be a bit more specific. The same question, but I asked to scan through this particular document and give me the differences. So it gave me a quick highlight on the pros and cons of marketing strategy mentioned in this document. I'm not going to read through it, but you get an idea, right? So you have to be more specific on what you want so that Copilot can give you the most accurate response. All right, so let's try a few additional prompt. So this time I'm going to ask. So I'm going to be very specific. I'm going to ask Copilot, give me a specific examples from this document on how I can improve it for a leadership review. So let's send it. You can change this question to suit your requirements, from leadership review to a board meeting or marketing team huddle or things like that. So Copilot is finishing up some suggestions and recommendations for me. Let's quickly go and read. It is giving me some details like, here are some examples how you can how this document can be improved. Add an executive summary, a great point. And it tells me what it does to an executive summary at the beginning of the document would provide a concise overview of the key points highlights. That's a great suggestion. Include more data and metrics if you are planning to present this document to a leadership. Rather than going through a lot of text blurb, you should include some benefits with some charts and metrics and data points. Clarify the evaluation process because it identified that the document has a section titled evaluation but it is empty. That's a great find. Provide more detail on the budget. 100%. So these are like amazing tips. Like I don't even know, like if you are working on documentation and your primary job is to fine tune it and provide an amazing document. If you know how to prompt and ask the right and relevant question, you could take these tips what Copilot gives you and make it even more interesting. I'm sure like using these tips you can ask Copilot to actually generate a summary. It is definitely asking you to add an executive summary. So you could ask Copilot another question. Hey, Copilot, write me an executive summary in the beginning of this document, and you can copy that and you can paste it on the document rather than you writing from the scratch. Or you take the baseline what Copilot gives and you modify on top of it. Let's open a brand new document and let's try something new. So I'm gonna again use Copilot here. It's a blank document and I'm gonna ask Copilot to write something brand new for me. My prompt is, how can I more concisely describe time management? And click send. I could have asked in this section as well. I could have clicked on this Copilot button and draft it from here as well. So after we finish it, we can ask here. So either I can copy it and I can paste it here. So it says that the response isn't based on this document because it's a blank document. There is nothing in it. And it gives me a concise point on what is time management. So I'm going to ask, write a paragraph on describing time management in a more concise manner. Click on generate. Awesome. So it basically gave me a different view on the same sentence above. This time it says time management is a skill of making the best use of your time to achieve your goal, work effectively, and enjoy your life. Planning and organizing your activities, prioritizing more important ones, and avoiding distractions and procrastination. So that's how you can ask certain things directly to a Copilot and write more confidently. If you want to keep it, you can click on keep it. I'm going to close it. Um, I don't want to save it. I'm going to going back to the old document. This is the marketing document we've been using so far. I'm going to ask another question in the chat. How do I add? Even though I have table of contents, I'm just going to quickly ask, how do I add table of contents? So if I am new to document formatting and I don't know how to add table of content, I'm basically looking for tip on how to add table of content. So this basically gives me a quick idea on, hey, place your cursor where you want to add the table of content. On the reference tab, select table of content. So references are like this and select table of content. Select table of content. Wow. So if I'm new to Word, I don't even know this functionality exists. You basically ask Copilot to show me certain things and I can easily do that as well. That's pretty smart. All right, so I'm going to ask another question. What arguments does this document make? Send, and it gives me a summary of what are the arguments this particular document makes. Let me ask another question. Who are the stakeholders in this document? All right, so let's see. According to this document, the stakeholders are team members in the marketing campaign, the clients, and the company content. So this is great. All right. So these are some of the example prompts you could start off. These are not limited. Basically, your imagination is your limit. If you do have Copilot license, start using it, start exploring it, find different use case scenarios, and let me know how things go. And let me know if you find this video useful and you find any other use cases which you have not seen in this video. Thank you. I hope you find this video helpful. I'll see you on the next one. Till then, take care. You're watching Mastering Copilot video series. In this episode, we are going to learn about how can you use Copilot in Excel. Let's begin. All right. So you can use Copilot in Excel in two different ways. Just like how it was in Word, you can use a fat client. Fat client is nothing but the Excel you have already installed on your operating system. Another way is go to your portal.office.com, Office Online, select the Excel app. This is known as Excel Online, and open a blank document. And on your ribbon, you would be able to see the Copilot button. So I'm going to go back to the fat client. By default, when you open an Excel, the Copilot will be disabled. There are a couple of things you need to know about making sure that Copilot works in your Excel file. First and foremost, you have to auto save your Excel file. As you notice, my Copilot is grayed out or not enabled on my Excel. The reason is Copilot to work in your Excel, you need to first turn on your autosave. When you turn on autosave, that means you are technically saving your documents in your OneDrive for Business folder. If your document is not enabled for autosave, your Copilot will not work. So first and foremost, go and turn on autosave. You have to pick your organization OneDrive Business and give a name. I'm going to name it as Copilot in Excel sample and click OK. So that will allow me to store this file in the OneDrive, and immediately you can see that the auto save is turned on. At the same time, now if you notice, my Copilot is turned on as well. So this is very, very important. Now that I have turned on the auto save and the Copilot button, there is one more additional thing you need to learn about Copilot in Excel. So if you launch the Copilot, you can launch it by just clicking on the Copilot button. That opens up the Copilot chat window. This is where you would be able to add prompt, ask questions, sort your files and things like that. When I turn this on, you can see that everything within this chat option is also disabled. I won't be able to add a formula, or I can't highlight it. There is no way I can sort, filter, analyze. I can't even ask a question. Everything is disabled. That's because Copilot in Excel can only work on an Excel table. So you need to have an Excel table present in your workbook for Copilot to even work. So these are the two important things to keep in your mind when you are working on Copilot in Excel. First, turn on the autosave to enable Copilot. Second thing is you need to have some sort of a table to start working in your Excel workbook with Copilot assistance. The good thing is that if you are quite new to Copilot in Excel and you have not figured out how to use it, Excel is going to give you an option to try some sample table. So you could click on this try an example. Immediately gonna give you a sample table to try out few things or learn how to work with Copilot. Once you have this sample table available, now if I go back and select the table and if I scroll back to the Copilot, so if you notice, now all of these options are enabled. I can add formula columns, I can highlight data, I can sort, filter, analyze. We will go through all of this in detail, but you can see that this is actually helping me learn how to use Copilot in Excel. So let me show you how you can work with the data available in the table using some prompts. There are some sample prompts already available. If you don't know where to start and you want some starting point, you could try all of this. And there is a refresh button on the chat window as well. So if you don't like the prompt which is suggested by Copilot and you want more prompt to gain an understanding, you can click on this refresh button. This will keep on giving you new set of prompts for you to try or sample. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question to the Copilot. So I just selected a cell within the table, so that immediately enabled the chat and all other options within the Copilot. And I'm going to ask, add a column that calculates a new budget based on user engagement rate. So I have columns with some values on engaged users, and I have some budget information as well. So let me see if Copilot will be able to help me with this question. So I'm asking this question. Copilot is scanning through the data. Copilot gave me some information. Let's go and read about that. Copilot is giving me a formula so that I can review and I can insert if I'm okay with it. And that formula is going to help me calculate a new budget for each campaign by multiplying the original budget, which is going to find the ratio of the engaged users. So the person like me, I don't even know how to create a pivot table in Excel. So if I had to do it, I will go to YouTube and find. But the reason I say that, my expertise in Excel is very limited. So I don't think I will be able to come up with a formula to create these sort of analysis. But now with the help of Copilot, I can ask what I need in my natural language, and Copilot will give me suggestions and the ways I can do it. And if I need explanation on this formula, I can click on it and I can read through it, what this formula does. For me, as a layman, all I want is the answer I am looking for. So for me, I can come to this particular button. So there is an option called insert column. So based on the formula what we have seen above, so Copilot will add an extra column which shows the new budget based on the engaged user. So I click on it. So I immediately get a new budget column that calculates the new budgets based on user engagement rate. So it was super simple. So if you know your intention and you don't know how to create formulas to create all of these data, all you need to do is ask Copilot what you need, and Copilot will be able to give you the formula to analyze or formulate the data what you're looking at. So if you notice, what are the things Copilot did? It created a new column, and it gave a name to the column. It called that column as new budget. Second thing what Copilot did is it created a formula. The formula is created based on the natural language input what you have given Copilot, and it translated into an Excel syntax. For me to understand it better, Copilot can explain the formula in detail as well, by step. I can understand. If there is something else I would like to add, I can ask a follow-up question to add more in-depth information so that Copilot can refine the formula as well. All right, so let's ask another question or a different prompt. So again, the Copilot for Excel is disabled. You have to click on a cell within the table to enable the whole section. So do that. Please remember that part. This time I'm going to ask, add a column that calculates a budget increase for profitable campaigns, and click send. All right, so I got a new formula. This time it calculates a new budget for each campaign by checking if the revenue is greater than the budget. And you can see the formula. You can copy the formula to modify it if you want by creating a column for yourself. If you want extra explanation, just like before, it tells you the iterative steps. All I am cared about is the insert column option. So even before inserting it, I can just hover my mouse. So if you notice, so let me highlight it here. If I hover my mouse over inside insert column, you can see that it already provided the new budget information. So I can click on insert column. It added a new budget column, and this time you know that this is based on the budget increase for profitable campaigns. So that's how you can use this sample data which I showed you to learn basic things about how you can work with your Excel file. Additionally, you could just try out these sample prompts which Copilot gives you. I'm gonna click on this data called show data insights. So let's see what Copilot comes with. I'm not saying that you have to use it, but you could go through these prompts to get an idea about what you want to do next, because this is a new technology, and if we are not good at prompting, so examples we can use to actually learn how to prompt it or get an idea about what is possible with this. So when I ask for showing insights, it's show me the new budget by launch date, in a graph, I can add that data into the new sheet, or it is asking, hey, do you want it in a pivot chart? Or if you want a totally new set of insight, you can ask a different set of insight in a different format as well. So these are great. So if I want to add it in a new sheet, click on add it in a new sheet. It created a new sheet all by itself. So sheet 2, you can see that it is added a total user targeted by campaign type based on new insight gained from the table what we have given. That's amazing. Now let's go and learn how can you edit with Copilot in Excel. To edit, just click on any cell within your table and go to the Copilot chat window. If it is not enabled, all you have to do is click on this Copilot button. So that will immediately open the Copilot tab where you can ask questions. So I'm gonna add yellow data bars to budget. So I have a budget column here. So I want to add an yellow bars to these values. So click on send. So Copilot is working on it. It is making the changes. All right. So you can see that it's already started adding the bars, and it tells me, hey, the work is done. I have made following changes. I created a data bar, conditional formatting rule with gradient yellow on E2 to E13. So you exactly know what it is done. The next prompt I want to try is I want to bold the first column. So I'm gonna select a cell and I'm gonna ask bold the first column. So it should bold all the values in the first column to bold. All right. These are some of the ways you can actually ask Copilot to edit something. All right. So let's ask another prompt. So this time I'm going to ask Copilot to round the prices to the nearest dollar. All right. So that task is completed. So you can see that it made the following changes, and it tells you where all the changes has been made to the column budget, revenue, new budget, and new budget too. For whatever reason, if you didn't like the change and you want to go back to the previous state, all you have to do is click on this undo button. So that immediately changes back to the state it was before. So now it is gone back to the previous state, and Copilot tells me, hey, I just reversed the last change made. Now let's learn how can you understand your data in Copilot in Excel. So imagine you have heaps of data in your Excel workbook, and you want to make a sense of this data. So what are the different prompts you can use to understand the data what you have? Again, select on a cell within a table and go to the prompt window. This time I'm gonna ask, how does revenue generated by different campaign types compare? Because I want to gain more insight on the data what I have in the workbook. It completed the analysis. So let me go back to the data which generated. So you can see that Copilot created an illustration based on revenue by marketing type. It includes details on digital marketing, brand marketing, etc. And you get an idea about what it has done. And if I want to explore further or add these details, I can click on either copy, or I can click on add to a new sheet, which created a new sheet with the data. So it included a pivot table, it included a chart. You can actually click on this chart and modify the chart based on your preference, etc. So let's try one more prompt. This time I'm going to select all the data in the table and I'm going to ask visualize the data. Let's see what Copilot can come up with. All right, so based on the understanding of the data what we have given, it created a new budget by launch date pivot table, and this pivot chart explains the sum of new budget by launch date. So I can click on add to the new sheet based on the launch date. This is the budget, and a pivot chart is also included. All right, so that's a quick look on how can you use Copilot in Excel. So I hope it was useful. I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care. You're watching Mastering Microsoft 365 Copilots. In this episode, we are going to learn about Copilot in PowerPoint. Let's begin. At first, we are going to learn how to create a new presentation deck from a Word document. I'm going to launch the PowerPoint Rich client. You can click on the blank presentation, and on your home ribbon bar, you will be able to see Copilot, and it is turned on. The same functionality is available on PowerPoint Online as well. So if you go to your portal.office.com, select the PowerPoint application and go to a blank presentation, under the home ribbon bar, you will be able to see Copilot. So once you click on the Copilot, it opens up the Copilot chat window. This is where you would be able to create presentation, add details to the slides, modify your presentation, etc. Additionally, you can ask Copilot to do certain tasks as well using prompts. So I'm going to minimize this. We are going to use PowerPoint Rich Client to perform all the exercises for today. So within your Rich Client, click on the Copilot button. You can find the Copilot button under Home, and that opens the chat window. Here, Copilot is already giving us some prompt to start off with. So you can either click on create a presentation to start a presentation from scratch, or you can create a presentation from file as well. So in this example, we are going to look at this particular prompt. You could either go and type. Let me quickly show you. So go to prompt. You can click on create. So I'm going to click on create presentation from a file. When you do that, it automatically opens the recently opened the documents which is stored in your OneDrive for Business. So I have some sample documents which is stored in my OneDrive. So I'm going to select this demo Contoso marketing plan document which I have already used for my Copilot in Word example. So I'm going to select that file and click send. So at this point in time, Copilot in PowerPoint is going through the document we just uploaded, and it is pulling all the things required for it to make it as a presentation deck. Looks like the presentation is created from a Word document. You can see that this presentation include things like all these topics which is already available in the document. So if you want to look at the document, let me quickly open the document. So this is the document which I have given Copilot to. It includes certain things like introduction, company information, what are the target market, this particular company. So an example document about a company's marketing plan. So rather than somebody creating a brand new presentation from all this data available, you can simply upload this, and Copilot in PowerPoint can give you a PowerPoint presentation deck. Here in this draft presentation, Copilot in PowerPoint created 17 slides and made some changes as well. Additionally, Copilot included speaker notes, added some images based on the document to make it more engaging. It applied layouts, and it put a general sensitivity label to the deck as well. Now let's go and go through the presentation deck. Again, take this presentation deck as the starting point, and you can modify and customize on top of it. So within like 10 seconds or so, I have a brand new PowerPoint slide deck which includes 17 slides, which is a great starting point. It saved immense amount of time if you are somebody who create a lot of presentation for your pitch. All right, it included an agenda slide based on all the headings, what it is available from the document. It pulled up some images from the document itself. Like I remember seeing this chart from the document. It created a table based on the content and charts, etc. So this is a great starting point. And if I open the notes section, let me expand this. For each slide, for each section of the document, you can see that Copilot have given me the speaking notes as well. This is great for somebody who actually works on presentation and create presentation for their day-to-day work. So now let's go and learn how can you add a new slide with the help of Copilot in PowerPoint. So let's assume you have done enough modification to suit your style of presentation. Now the next thing what you want to do is add a slide which you want to thank everybody for coming in and attending your presentation, and you want to let them know it's time for Q&A. And the Q&A is going to last for 10 minutes. So you want to create a presentation on that. So I'm going to click on towards the end of the presentation, and I'm going to ask Copilot to create a new slide. That's my prompt. Rest is what you want Copilot to do. So be as descriptive as you can be on what you want, just like how I was explaining in the Copilot for Word. So you give more details to Copilot, the more refined and most accurate response you can get out of Copilot. So here I'm asking Copilot, hey, create a slide thanking everyone for attending this Contoso marketing plan presentation. And my objective here is to let everyone know it is time for Q&A, and the Q&A will last for 10 minutes. And click on send. Copilot is working on it. All right, so it looks like it created a slide. It uses the same branding according to the theme of this presentation and tells everybody thanks for attending the presentation. It added the speaker notes as well. So you can, if you're using a teleprompter or something, you could potentially go and read about it. It's much more descriptive. It included the details what I have given. The Q&A session will last for 10 minutes. So make sure to get your questions in and etc. In the first example, we have seen how to create a new PowerPoint using an existing Word document. That is useful if you are trying to gather information from a repository or a file you already have. What if you want to create something brand new? All you have is an idea and you want to build on it, or you want to have a starting point where you can add more data on it. So let me show you how can you create a brand new deck from nothing. So in this example, I'm gonna go back to my PowerPoint rich client. I'm gonna select a blank document and I don't have any data in this blank document. I could start with designer because designer give me some tips on how to start, but I'm going to use Copilot. This time click on Copilot. So I'm going to give a prompt. In this prompt, I'm going to give create a presentation about a topic. In this topic, I want to create a vacation presentation about India, and I'm going to add more details. Additionally, I'm giving an extra prompt to be bit more specific on what I need. I'm going to add, be sure to include slides on Kerala, Goa, Himalaya and Varanasi. So let's see what Copilot is going to come up with. I'm going to click on send. It created a presentation about India and has been created a slides on Kerala, Goa, Himalaya and Varanasi is included. It included pictures from Microsoft stock images. You feel free to use these images. So if I go to different slides, you can see that it pulled up from this particular place, like state, this is where I'm from. We are known for our backwaters and water boards and elephants. It gave me some pointers, which is quite accurate. The next slide, it's about Goa. Again, Goa is a beach state. So the image, what it is used to represent is to showcase it's a beach place, known for beaches and nightlife, influenced by Portuguese culture. Himalaya, it included a background picture. So again, it's a great starting point. I just started from a blank document. All I had to do was tell Copilot to create a presentation about India, and I just given some information. But if I can be more descriptive and more clear on my prompt, I can even get much more richer data on my presentation. So after you get this presentation, if you don't like this particular image, you can always go and click on modify and edit these images out. So you feel free to change it. So always use Copilot as your reference or a starting point where you can build something on top of. So let me quickly add another slide on this particular PowerPoint. I'm going to ask Copilot to add a slide about visiting yoga retreat center in Himalaya. So click send. It created a slide based on the prompt I have given. Visiting a yoga retreat center in Himalayas. It gave me some pointers as well. Now we have learned how to create a PowerPoint from either a document or from scratch. Let's learn what are the tips you can use to format a PowerPoint deck with the help of Copilot. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint deck we created using the document, which is the Contesso marketing plan. So minimize the notes pane. To make any changes to the design of the PowerPoint, the best tool I could recommend is taking help of the designer. The designer button is located adjacent to Copilot. It's again a AI powered tool. Work alongside Copilot to give you design options. So click on designer, and these designer can provide you your slide makeover. So I have modified my title. This looks much better. It looks like a marketing plan, and I love the stock image. So if I click on present mode, you can see that it already added the animation, and this looks much better than the original content. Similarly, you can go to any of the slide, click on designer, and designer will give you different look and feel for your agenda, which you can choose from. I'm going to stay with the second option. So I'm going to pick and choose one which is most appropriate or better looking than what I already have. And this again shows you the capability of AI power. Along with Copilot, the designer also gives you an ability to change each of these slides quickly according to your taste. Now that we have learned about how can you redesign the slide using Designer, let's go and learn some other formatting tips. So now I opened a sample PowerPoint presentation. This PowerPoint presentation is about a e-bike called Thunderbolt. It has a lot of slides about the details, the weakness and the opportunities, the price, performance of this particular product. A lot of text. So I would like to add an image. So let's pick a slide. So I'm going to pick this slide, maintenance and support. I'm going to click on Copilot. In the chat window, I'm going to ask a prompt. I'm going to ask add a relevant image to this particular slide and click send. All right. Copilot added a slide which it thought is relevant, and it given me a reason as well. So let's go and read the reason. Copilot says that it added an image of a customer support representative on phone. So for some reason, if I don't like the image, I can even ask another prompt. So I'm asking Copilot to change the image in this slide. I'm not providing additional prompt. I'm just gonna basically change this image. Let's see if this works. All right, so that prompt was not specific enough. So I'm gonna ask another prompt, add an image to the slide of a person riding an electric bike, because it included the person who is supporting for the maintenance, which is ideal, and it included a person who is riding the bike as well. So if I want to modify it, I can double click. I can click on crop to change the positioning of the image and add border, color, change the size, layout, etc. So that's how you would be able to modify an existing slide by either changing the image or adding a new image. So far we have learned about how to use Designer to change the slide layouts. We have learned how to add extra images. Now let's go and learn how Copilot can help you organize your PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to use the same presentation about this e-bike. Looks like there are no sections added. And details are missing. So I'm going to ask Copilot to organize this presentation for me. So I'm going to click send. So ideally it should add all the section on the left hand side of the presentation. So I'm going to quickly mark this area. This is where we are going to see some changes. So looks like the changes has been made. So let me quickly go back to Copilot to see what it made it. So Copilot tells me it grouped the slides into sections. It included section called introduction and specification. So let me minimize it. Then it organized based on SWOT analysis. It organized based on performance requirements. It organized the slides based on design, quality, maintenance, and documentation. This is great. I started with a bunch of slides on a particular e-bike. Now I have 4 different segments, different sections where I can stop and ask and explain and connect with my audience when I'm presenting this. And I could include some Q&A in between each section to make it more interactive and break down the whole thing into small chunks. On top of it, it added additional slides. It added slide number 2. So let's go and see what is slide number 2. So this particular presentation didn't have an agenda slide. So it figured out that the agenda is needed. So it added an agenda slide based on the content. On slide 8, it added a new slide called SWOT analysis, and it done the same thing for other sections as well. So for performance requirement and for design, quality, and maintenance. So that's how you can quickly go and organize a slide deck. Even if you don't use anything, you can simply open your bunch of presentation what you already have and try this prompt, organize this presentation, and see what it can come up with. So we have learned a bunch of tips and tricks on how you can create, format, organize, and modify an existing PowerPoint or create a brand new one. So what if you want to analyze an existing PowerPoint deck? You want to get some summary, or you want to understand some key information about a PowerPoint deck. What can you do and how can you get that? So let's go and learn how to do that. So let's assume you got this particular slide deck from one of your customer and you reviewing this data. So rather than reading on all these slides, you just want to quickly get a summary of what it includes. So you can simply go to the Copilot chat window and you can ask Copilot to summarize the presentation for you and click send. So ideally you are looking at a concise blurb on what this content is all about. So rather than combing through all the slides, you just basically want to read and get a concise idea. So Copilot gave me a quick summary of this presentation deck. It tells me that what are the main ideas. This is about a Thunderbolt e-bike what are the key selling points, SWOT analysis, and it included some reference points as well. So under each of these topic, you can hover your mouse and you can click on these numerical numbers like 1, 2, 3. So if you click on these numbers, it point to the reference where it gets these data from. So click on 2, it tells me, hey, I found out this information about this particular bike on this particular slide. You can click on this, it tells me, hey, I got this information from this slide. So I use these 3 slides to come up with this concise summary for you. So this is a quick way of combing through hundreds of slides and get a quick idea before you jumping ahead and make some conclusion or to do some study before a presentation. Another question you could ask for analysis is, I'm going to ask this time, show the key slides on this presentation. So send this prompt. So Copilot is going to scan over all the 20 slides I have, and it should ideally tell me what are the key slides on this particular deck. All right, so it tells me there are 4 key slides. The slide number 6 talks about key selling points, so I can go directly to slide number 6 to understand the selling points. Slide number 10 talks about threats. So if I am a buyer or if I am a seller, if I want to understand my competition and the threats which I should be aware of, I can go and quickly look at slide number 10. And slide number 12 talks about the strength of the product, and slide number 14 talks about the performance requirements. There could be additional key slides, but it tells you that these are the starting points where you can look at, and then you can go for additional details. So that's how you can ask Copilot for a quick summary and show you some key slides on your existing PowerPoint. Now let's go and learn some additional prompt and additional tips and tricks what you can do with PowerPoint. Let's assume you're combing through this PowerPoint and you don't know what is this SWOT means. So let's quickly go to Copilot and I'm gonna ask Copilot to tell me more about the acronym SWOT. What if I don't know this acronym? I want to get more details of it. Copilot is looking through the details and it tells me, according to this presentation, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it gives me an idea about what this analysis tool does and how does it impact an organization, product, or a project. So again, you could basically stay within this particular rich client itself and ask for further details to broaden your knowledge about the topic what you're working on. Once Copilot gather enough data about your PowerPoint, you could always come to this chat area and click on this refresh button. This gives you some of the prompts you could ask Copilot for further analysis and study related to the content what you have in your PowerPoint. So it is asking, hey, do you want to understand what are the opportunities for this Thunderbolt e-bike? So if you want to know more about it, click on that prompt rather than you asking for it. So this is going to scan through this PowerPoint deck and find the relevant information for you. Alright, so it gone through all the 20 slides and it tells you that based on this, what are the opportunities? It tells you it has exceptional performance and speed. It has the range of 70 miles and it is lightweight. So that's a quick overview on how to use Copilot in PowerPoint. I hope the information provided was helpful. I will see you on the next one. Until then, take care. You're watching Mastering Copilot video series. In this episode, we are going to learn about how can you use Copilot in Outlook. Let's begin. One of the key features of Copilot in Outlook is to help you draft an email. So let me show you how you can do that. One of the requirements for using Copilot in Outlook is you need to have a new Outlook installed. So if you're using old Outlook, you can go to your old Outlook and turn on this toggle to convert it into a new Outlook. Another way is to go to Outlook Online. So go to your portal.office.com and select your Outlook app. So within your Exchange Online, if you are trying to draft a new email, so click on New Email. You can even pop it out and you can see that there is an option called Draft with Copilot. So this is available with Outlook Online or Exchange Online. Similarly, you will be able to see a Copilot button in your Outlook as well. So I'm going to use the rich client. So I'm going to close this window, go back to the rich client. If you notice, I've already turned on new Outlook on my Outlook application. To draft a new email, I can either reply to an existing email thread or I can click on new email. To make it a bit more visible for everyone, I'm going to click on this pop-up. that immediately pops out a new email drafting window for you. Here, just like the Exchange Online, you can see that there is a Copilot button. Using this, you can either draft with Copilot or you can coaching by Copilots. We will come to this second one later. So you can click on draft with Copilot. It immediately opens up this window. This is where you would be able to type in details, what type of email you want Copilot to generate it for you. Even if you don't click on this button, and if I go back and open a new email, let's pop out. By default, there is an option called draft with Copilot. So you can start with clicking on that. That again opens up this window. So let's start with some simple prompts. So I want to request a sync with my team and wish everybody a happy new year. And once you put in the details of what you want Copilot to create a draft email of, you can click on this adjustment button. So there are a couple of options. We have tone. In the tone, we can select how do you want Copilot to write your emails. Do you want it to be direct, neutral, casual, formal, or make it as a poem? And in terms of length, you have short, medium, and long. So I'm going to select casual because I'm wishing everybody in my team happy new year and then I want to create a sync with them. So select casual and I'm going to select long. Let's see what Copilot can come up with. Click on generate. You can see that Copilot is creating a draft for me based on the prompt. The draft email is ready. All we have given is requesting a sync. I haven't even mentioned who. I just mentioned sync and wishing everybody a happy new year. So Copilot is addressing, hey everyone, I hope the email finds you well. You had a wonderful holiday season. Because I selected the casual tone, you can see that the whole theme of this email is a bit casual. It added details like we are entering the final phase of the development and I'm impressed with the progress we made so far. If these things are not relevant for you, you can always regenerate or you can add additional things on how you want to change it, or you can simply keep it and modify the email based on your requirement. Again, you get a good starting point for your email. An additional thing what we have asked the Copilot is to wish everyone a happy new year. So that part is added towards the bottom of the email as well. Wish everyone a happy and prosperous new year. Stay safe and healthy. And it picked up my name as a signature as well. So what if I want to, I like the email where it is started, but I want to increase the urgency of the email. So rather than like redoing everything, I'm going to use this box called anything you would like to change. And I'm going to type in the same email, add some urgency. And rather than clicking on regenerate or keep it, I'm going to click on this additional option prompt. So click send. Copilot is drafting an email again based on the additional prompt I have given. All right. So the Copilot generated a second draft for me. If you notice in the second draft, there is a paragraph mentioned specifically highlighting the urgency of this particular project. Hey, we still have some critical tasks to complete, tests, fix, and before the launch, it is crucial that we meet next week. So you can see that the tone of the email slightly changed to bring in some urgency to the task we have in hand. And additionally, if you want to modify the prompt, what you have given, you can click on this button. That's the additional prompt we have given, add urgency. And you could type more details specific to this project as well. So you can say that add urgency to notify everyone that in a couple of weeks we have to release the first pilot or things like that. That additional prompt will go back again and redraft your email. So I'm going to quickly go back. If you notice on the top of the drafting, you have 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. So if you go back to the previous draft, you can see that this is our original prompt and the second one is the modified prompt with a bit more additional details. Again, you can even fine tune this by adding more and more details to change your draft how you want to look at it. Or if you completely want to regenerate it, all you have to do is click on regenerate. It changes the whole style, give the email in a different format. Again, this is a third type. So you can see that there is 3 versions of an email with a bit more details to it. If you want to start over, you can click on discard, or if you want to keep it, click on keep it. So that gives you a good starting point for your email. So this is great. So I don't even have to send this email. If I don't like second paragraph, I can just simply delete it and I can type in whatever I feel like, or I can simply modify certain part of that email and I can modify or edit that as well before sending to the team. Alright, so this is great in terms of creating a simple draft email. What if you want to try a bit more complicated, or you want to add more details and pull details from different directions? So I'm gonna click on new email, pop it out for better visibility. Click on the Copilot button and click draft with Copilot. So here I'm gonna give some prompt. This time the prompt is gonna be draft an email where I'm in a customer facing role and provide a customer name. So I'm going to call this customer. The customer name is Contesso Engineering. And I want to generate an email inviting some people. So I'm going to invite Steve and Ricky, and I want to add a bit more additional details. So I want to provide an event name as well. So I'm going to provide event name as Technical Expo event, and let's put a date as well on 15th April. And the request is give a brief description of the event and encourage the recipients to register early. So rather than using this tone, I'm going to tell that the tone of the email is professional yet direct. And I'm going to click on generate. So here, rather than just giving a short detail, I provided what exactly I need. Things like who are the recipients. So it started with Steve and Ricky, and it picks up that the company they represent is called Contesso Engineering. So it says that, hey, you are enjoying your work at this particular company. So it has finer details based on the prompt we have given. The second or the third sentence, you can see that I am inviting you to the Technical Expo, which is taking place on 15th April. These are the details we have given in the prompt. And I wanted them to register early. So it given the details about what is this project about, and some additional details about the key speakers, panel discussion, things like that. You can, of course, go and modify it, but you get an idea, right? So we gave some specific instruction to Copilot to draft an email with certain recipients, the company details, some expo details, date, etc. All of this is being included. You could see that to bring in some urgency, it stated that the registration deadline is 10th of April, so that they register it soon enough because the event is going to start on 15th April. So it added that extra bit of details as well. We haven't even mentioned where to go and register. So it given you details like, hey, this is the website. So you could always come here and modify this and add the website which you want them to go and register. And the tone we have selected was professional, but it was direct. You can see that that is being taken care as well. So this is another example of making it even more concise and refined for your requirement rather than like starting from a blank slate. And we could always use this option to regenerate if you don't like the first draft, or you could click on anything you would like to change and add additional prompt to make it even more refined. So that's a quick example on how you can draft an email with the help of Copilot in Outlook. Next, what we are going to learn is how you can use Copilot to coach you how to refine or better write your emails. So there is an option called coaching by Copilot. So let's see how that can be used. So go to your Outlook and open a new email. You need to have some content within your email for coaching to work. So I'm just going to quickly use Copilot to draft with Copilot to add some content. So traditionally how this works is if you already have drafted an email all composed by yourself available, then you can click on coaching and it starts generating content for you. So let me quickly ask Copilot. I'm asking the Copilot to just create a draft email to acknowledge the response and suggest we focus on social media campaign, and click on generate. The whole objective here is to have some content so that we can start using the coach with Copilot. So I have some standard email. It states few things. I'm just click on keep it. All I need is this data. So let's assume I came up with all these blurb. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Copilot. This time, rather than drafting with Copilot, we are going to select coaching by Copilot. So select that. So now after selecting the coaching, Copilot is gathering all the details available within this particular email and it is going to give me some ideas on what I could do better or change it. All right, so the data is available. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can see that this is the initial draft, and on the top you can see that there is coaching by Copilot. The first, it gives you some comments on the tone. Based on what we have given, it sounds enthusiastic and cooperative. If that is not something you wanted, then you could modify it and regenerate it. It tells that, hey, this email expresses appreciation, agreement, and interest in this project, but it suggests you could be more empathetic. And it is giving you some suggestions like you could acknowledge this reader's busy schedule and thank them for their time and attention. This is a great input if you are sending an email where if you sound not empathetic, you could modify this. And the great thing with coaching with Copilot is it is giving you some suggestions as well. So the suggestion is, instead of can we schedule a meeting next week to discuss this further, the email should say that would you be available for a meeting next week to discuss this further? Or I would appreciate it if you could spare some time for a meeting next week to discuss this further. So again, it took the sentence what you have written and it gave you a couple of different options asking the same thing but in a different tone to be more empathetic. We got some other suggestions as well. So this time Copilot is telling try adding more details. Because I mentioned about the social media campaign, Copilot is asking you could specify the preferred mode and duration of this meeting so that you could make this email more clearer and informative. That's a great suggestion because all I have given is we should focus on social media campaign. We have not given more details. Based on that, Copilot is giving me suggestions like, hey, I have some ideas on how we can create this engaging and more informative content for our platforms. And you could put like what are your ideas so that giving more clarity to your email. So before sending an email, we all could once in a while use coaching by Copilot to check the tone of the email, understanding if we are taking care of the reader sentiment, and we could add more clarity by adding more details to the email. So I find this coaching by Copilot a great tool in terms of me efficiently writing and responding to the emails. And I hope you start using this as well. Another thing you could take help from Copilot is to get a good summary of your emails, especially if you have long threaded emails. So let me show you how you can use that. Again, go to an email and on top of your email, so you could see that there is an option called Summary by Copilot. You can click that or you could open the email itself. So rather than going through all the data, click on Summary and it goes through the detail and it tells you what Copilot thinks of that particular email. So I had back and forth communication with this particular gentleman to ask about the visa. So it combed through all the emails which I have communicated in the past and gave me a good summary of the details, what I have asked, what that particular person told, things like that. So rather than me going through individual details on all the emails, you can see that there are heaps of emails. We both interacted back and forth. And the summary included all the things what we have discussed on all that emails we have interacted. And it gives you different reference points as well. So if it is from the first email, you can click on this. It automatically takes you to that email where you have discussed things like that. It gives you different action items, action points. So you get the idea, right? Especially I use summary if it's a long threaded email where I am looped into something, rather than going through all individual emails to understand what's going on there. I click on Summary by Copilot and it gives you what other people are discussing, why I am involved in that particular thread, what are the action items, what are the expectations, things like that with reference points. So that's a quick look on Copilot in Outlook. I hope the information provided in this video was helpful. I will see you on the next one. Take care. You're watching Mastering Copilot video series. In this episode, we are going to learn about how can you use Copilot in Teams. Let's begin. Before we dive deep into how can you use Copilot in Teams, there are a couple of things you need to understand. To use Copilot within your meeting or meeting recap, you must have enabled transcription within your meeting. So this can be done prior to the meeting or during the meeting as well. I will show you how it can be done. Another thing you need to be aware is Copilot will not work in meetings that are hosted outside your organization. To activate Copilot in Teams, you should be using the new Teams client. You can always check this by going into the settings and see if you have toggled on this to use the new Teams, or you can go to settings and click on about Teams to look at your Teams version as well. For some reason, if you're using the old Teams version, you can always go to teams.microsoft.com, sign in with your organization credentials, and on the top ribbon, you can see a button to toggle to use the new Teams. So click on switch to new Teams. Once you switch back to the new Teams, you can see that Copilot option is enabled for you. So I'm going to use the rich client. Let me quickly minimize this. So let me open the rich client for Teams, and I have enabled to use new Teams. First, let's go and learn how can you use Copilot in Teams after a meeting. All right, so let's assume you have missed a meeting and you want to go and know more about the meeting you have missed. So go to your calendar and select a meeting you have missed, open it, and on the top ribbon, click on recap. You can do a couple of things here. So one, you can definitely go and watch the recording and see what you have missed. You can check the speaker, you can check the topics discussed, and you can even view by chapters as well. That gives you different ways on accessing the recording. So that is great. On the right hand side, you can see that there's an option called AI Notes. This is generated by Copilot. So if you don't have time to go through the recording, you can quickly go through the summary or the notes created by Copilot to see what are the top actions discussed, what are the follow-up tasks, and things like that. You can click on mentions to see if they have mentioned you or any other people for any action items, things like that. If the meeting is enabled for transcription, you can click on transcript and you can download the transcript, or you can simply go and read the transcript as well. So there are multiple ways you can access the meeting if you have missed it. For Copilot to work, you definitely need to have this transcription enabled. Now, since this meeting have transcription enabled, I can always click on this Copilot button on the top and click on Copilot. That will open the sidecar for Copilot. Here, I will be able to ask additional questions to learn more about the meeting which has happened. I'm going to ask Copilot, summarize the objective of this meeting in one sentence, and click on send. All right. So it gave me information like what is the objective of this meeting. I can ask follow-up questions like using some sample prompt which Copilot have already given. Let's use a prompt called list action items. All right, so based on the question, it is giving me the action items discussed during the meeting. I'm not going to read through that, but you get the idea, right? So each meeting will have different objectives, so you can always go and ask these questions. But if you are stuck and you don't know what to ask, always click on more prompt. This will give you some suggested prompt which you could go and ask Copilot. Like I mentioned before, transcription has to be enabled for this Copilot to work. You can automatically turn on transcription as well while you create the meeting if you are the organizer. So let me quickly show you how it is being done. So let's go and click on create a new meeting. While you create the meeting, I'm just going to provide a sample name. Click on more option to see the option to enable transcription by default. And within that, go to recording and transcript. So while you create this meeting, you can automatically record it. So even if somebody forgot to turn on recording, you can automatically record it. And for Copilot, you can say that with transcription or without transcription. So you can select with transcription and you can save it as the default option. Otherwise, during the meeting, you can enable transcription and turn on recording as well. Similarly, you can go to the chat and you can ask questions on the chat window as well. So let's assume this is the chat you want to work on. I'm going to click on open the chat in a new window, expand it. When you do that, you can either click on this Copilot button on the chat to open the Copilot sidecar, or you could click on Copilot button on the messaging tab as well. There are some subtle differences with these two. If you click on this Copilot sidecar on the chat window, if you click on this sidecar option, this option is going to give you all the option to ask question or use appropriate prompt to gain understanding about what things are discussed here. Things like recap the meeting. It gives you data on what it is being discussed while you were away. Or you could ask questions like, rather than reading all the chat history, you can ask questions like what are the open items. That scans through the entire chat to give you the answers what you're looking at. And just like other copilots, it gives you reference points as well. So if you are particularly looking for certain information, you can click on this reference icon that immediately takes you to where the data is coming from. So that is good. The second thing is the Copilot button in your chat window. So if you click on this option, this will allow you to modify what you are writing or adjusting your tone on the messages you want to send in the chat. So let's assume I want to type in like, I want to tell the team that, hey, I missed the meeting. Apologize for that. And I'm so happy to see that the team is doing a good job so far and keep up the good work. This is something which I want to tell. But if I want to rewrite it, I can always click on this Copilot button and click on rewrite. It immediately gives me a different statement based on what I have inputted here. This time Copilot tells me to rewrite it, stating, my apologies for not attending the meeting. I'm glad to see that team's progress and excellent work. Keep it up. It's a bit more polished and concise than what I've written. And you can always adjust the tone just like how we have done in Outlook. So let's assume if I want to make it even longer, I can click on longer and it will go and rewrite it for me. And again, not only the number of characters, I can even make it sound different as well. So I can make it sound like casual, professional, confident, or I can always click on the custom option and I can type in what I need as well. So I'm going to click on adjust. And this time I'm going to click on professional, and this time it is going to make it a different statement based on what we have chose. Just like Outlook, I can always revisit the previous statement by clicking on this button to go back and see what are the statements which is written. And once I find which one is appropriate for my taste, I can click on replace it. So that automatically replace that with the new statement what it is given. Again, you don't have to send this. You can always come and modify it based on how you want to sound yourself. So Copilot will give you a good starting point. So it is up to you to refine this starting point, what you get, and customize it based on your need. In the beginning, I mentioned about to use Copilot, you need to have transcription enabled within your Teams meeting to use Copilot. But if you don't want to record or transcribe confidential meetings in Teams, you can still engage with Copilot when you set it up to without transcription in your meeting. So let me show you how you can do that. So go to your new Teams and go to your calendar. Let's assume you want to create a new meeting. Before creating, click on more options. Click on recording and transcript. By default, this option is with transcription, but you can select without transcription. This is purely for Copilot, but if you choose this option, you can still go ahead and use Copilot, still be able to work without transcription. So let's assume you are running a meeting and somebody joins in late. The meeting participants will be able to access any content from the moment Copilot without transcript was initiated. So if you have this option turned on, if somebody joins your meeting late, they will be able to actually use Copilot to go back in time and understand what happened in the meeting so far. And after you make the change, click on save. You can by default enable this to automatically record the meeting as well, along with Copilot transcription on or off. And click on save and create the meeting. Additionally, you can use Microsoft 365 chat within Teams as well. So let me show you where and how you can access that. So let's go to your Teams. Click on this ellipsis on your sidebar and search for Copilot and select Copilot. So this is how you can add Copilot to your Teams, and you can pin it on the sidebar. So this is always available for you. And if you want to use it in the chat option, you can go to chat and you can pin it here as well. So you can always open this chat in a new window, and you can always keep it on your sidebar or as a separate window, and you can always use it, or you can keep it within your Teams app itself and you can ask a bunch of questions. If you don't know where to start, I would recommend you to start with try these prompts. This will give you an idea about what are the things you could try with this Copilot chat. Things like prompt on how to help you start with your email, how to prepare for your meeting. If you are trying to understand what's latest from a particular person, based on emails, chat, etc. You get the idea, right? So you can use a lot of these prompt for different things. Let me show you how you can use it. So I'm gonna ask a question, list key points from, and I want to include a document. So that's the prompt I have given. I want to get some key points from a document. So to access the document, all you have to do is click on the forward slash. It opens up the files you have opened or access to your files in your OneDrive. So I'm just going to click on this PowerPoint presentation. It's about a electric bike, and click on send. So now it is scanning through all the data which is available in this particular presentation. You can click on this presentation to open up and see what it's available. Like I said, it's some details about an electric bike company. What are the strengths, their weaknesses, selling points, things like that. I'm going to minimize it. So now, based on the prompt I have given, Copilot is giving me information like, hey, this presentation is about so and so. The agenda of this presentation include these are the key points what I think about this particular file you have just uploaded. So I can actually copy this and use it in my email or the document I'm creating, or I can ask further follow-up questions. Things like, it mentioned about Relay Cloud. What are the other products by Relay Cloud? It tells that, hey, Relay Cloud is a company that produces wide range of product, blah, blah, blah. And again, if I want to understand who are the competitors, what the SWOT analysis for that particular product. If that is mentioned in that particular document, it is going to find that details for you. Rather than like you spending enough time to just go through this document one by one, you could ask these questions and gain information what you're looking at. To go back to the main chat, you can either click on new chat and try some other prompt. So this time I'm gonna ask, hey, create. So let's see if I can open a file first. So I have a document here called Contoso Marketing Plan. So let's quickly open the file. It includes lots of detail about that particular company, what are the target market they operate in, objectives, things like that. So I want to quickly create an FAQ on this document. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing it myself. Let's see if Copilot can help me with it. So I'm going to go back to the Microsoft chat. I'm going to tell Copilot, create a FAQ from, and go to files and select the Contoso marketing plan and click send. So the document which we using just now, this doesn't have any FAQ section in it. What if I want to add an FAQ towards the bottom of this page or at the top or separate? So that's the objective. All right, so the Copilot is creating. So based on the document, Copilot have created a bunch of questions for me. What's the purpose of this marketing plan? What is the company's overview? The target market? So what if it is a huge document and you want to create an FAQ quickly? You could use this prompt to actually create an FAQ. This can be used for anybody who is actually accessing this document, or for yourself to quickly go through the question as a knowledge base to understand what's in the document. Let's go back to new chat. So let's try some other prompt. So let's click on this prompt, which is prepare for meeting, and let's select an existing meeting in your diary and click send. So I have a meeting coming up with this particular product company called Ubico, and I want some assistance in terms of helping me prepare for this meeting. So let's see what Copilot is coming up with. It is telling me when is this meeting going to happen, who are the participants in the meeting, and the objective of the meeting is to discuss their product portfolio. And I can understand that there are a couple of people away on this meeting, and there is a reference email which I want to go through. So these are some of the details which I could use, or directly go back to emails and see what it is discussed before preparing the meeting. So this is absolutely great. So click on new chat. So anytime when you use Copilot chat to ask questions, all of your histories will be recorded here. Click close. Additionally, you can click on stay on top to give you some suggestions on what are the things you have missed, which you should be going through to stay on top of your work. I would encourage you to click on this view prompt to gain more understanding about additional prompt which is available. Because we are all quite new to this Copilot and Gen AI, we could always use some additional tips on how we can prompt it. And this include categories like if you want to catch up or create something new, or ask Copilot for some assistance, these prompts will give you an idea on what you could ask. Alright, so that's a quick video on how can you use Copilot in Teams. I hope it was useful. I will see you on the next one. Take care. You're watching Copilot Masterclass. In this episode, we are going to learn about how can you use Copilot in OneNote. Let's begin. So let's go and learn how can you use Copilot in OneNote to summarize notes for you. Go and launch the OneNote app. Make sure you're using the latest OneNote app. I'm just going to quickly maximize it. You can find Copilot under Home. So click on Home, and on the top right hand corner, you can find Copilot button. By default, it will be turned on. So to activate or enable the sidecar, all you have to do is click on the Copilot button. That will open the sidecar of Copilot in OneNote. Here, as you can see that you already have some sample prompts available like summarize, draft a to-do list, list pros and cons, things like that. Additionally, you can come here and ask certain questions as well. So we will start with a standard summarization. I'm just going to click on summarize. So summarize is a prompt. You can provide additional details to fine-tune your prompt as well. The more data you give, the more accurate your results are going to be. You can specify a tone, a length, or reference to a topic or a subject. So in this example, it says that you can summarize everything about this Conteso marketing campaign in email format. In this page, I have a document about a Relay Cloud Thunderbolt e-bike. It includes introduction about the e-bike. It has some technical specification, some performance requirement, functional requirements, things like that. It's a huge document. So what if you want a quick summary on this particular page and you want it in a bullet points? So let me quickly go and write a prompt for it. So I'm going to ask summarize this page into bullet points and use a professional tone, because the whole document is like a lot of blurb. So I want my summary to be in a bullet point. So click on send, and I specifically mentioned this page. So it should ideally take the content from this particular page. Copilot is combing through the data, and in the prompt, we specifically mentioned we want the summary in a bullet point and in a professional tone. Looks like we have our data available. Rather than giving in a paragraph, the summary of this particular page is provided in a bullet point. That's exactly what I wanted. And the tone of the statement is in a professional format. So let's read a couple of bullets. So it says that the page is a product specification document about this particular product. It's an electric bicycle. It is equipped with this particular capacity, and it has all the important points in a nice little bullet format. And additionally, I can see there are references as well. So I can click on these references, and it immediately takes me to the section of the document where these bullet points are taken from. So that's great. If I scroll down, I can actually click on these references to gain more understanding about where these data are coming from. If I'm happy about it, I can simply click on this copy option, and I can scroll down to the bottom of the document. I can type summary, and I'm going to just paste the summary which I just copied from Copilot. As a user, if you are going through a huge document, if you want a quick summary, you can basically ask Copilot to summarize. Additionally, if you want to narrow the scope of your summary, you can select a particular portion of the document and you can ask some questions related to that rather than from the entire document. So that's how summarization in Copilot for OneNote work. In the next example, let's go and learn how can you create a to-do list or a task in OneNote with Copilot. So in my OneNote, I have a separate page. This is where I track the one-on-one meetings I have with my manager every month. So this is a sample meeting notes example to showcase that this is how one could note down few things. So I want to come to this page and I want to ask Copilot, based on all the content available in this meeting notes, create a to-do list for me so that I know what are the tasks which is pending from my end to execute. Let's go to the Copilot and click on the chat window, and I'm going to ask get a to-do list from the meeting notes with my manager from this particular page. Click on send. So if you notice, I have some sample data on some meeting notes. It's not even accurate. I've just put some data in. Let's see what Copilot can come up with. Ideally, what I'm looking for is a to-do list. All right, so looks like Copilot created a to-do list. So here is the to-do list from your meeting notes with your manager on this page. Based on the data available here, it says that create a marketing plan based on the sales input. So if I want to know when my manager asks me to do it, I can click on this reference point. It takes me to that particular section. So you can see that that's available from the meeting which happened on January 2024, and there is an action which I need to take, which is create a marketing plan based on the sales input. That's good. So if you have heaps of data available and if you forget to take action or create plan for the action item, this is a great way to do it. The next is get approval from the audit and risk committee. So click on this reference to see where this is coming from. All right, so I can see that it is again taken from another action item which is available in the document. Let's look at another action item. Come prepared for the next meeting on future roles and plans. So let's click on that. All right, so it picked up from the meeting which happened on Feb. So there is an action which I had to take for the next meeting. I have to prepare for the future roles and plans. So that is picked up as well. This is really good. So I can copy this and I can paste it and I can make a to do tag and it immediately creates a tag for me. In the next example, we are going to learn about how to create project plans in OneNote with the help of Copilot. So let's go to your OneNote application. This time I'm going to go to the Contoso marketing plan. So this particular document include a marketing plan, some target market, some example about the cost, implementation plan, etc. So I want to create a project plan based on this particular document. So let's go to the Copilot button and in the chat window, type in your prompt. All right, so I typed in a prompt. So this time I'm asking Copilot to draft a plan for a project to develop a marketing strategy. An additional prompt I'm giving is reference the target market. So there is a target market section in this document. So I'm asking Copilot specifically to reference this part and the marketing objective. So there is another section called marketing objective. So I want Copilot to compare the target market and marketing objective on this particular page to help me create a project plan. So let's see what Copilot can come up with, and I'm going to click on send. Copilot is working on my request. Okay, Copilot have created a project plan. So let's go and quickly read. The information is based on the information on this page. The marketing objective is to develop the marketing strategy, and the strategy is to define the target market, conduct market research, develop marketing objective. All of these topics are relevant for creating a project plan based on the data available in this particular document. If I'm happy with the content, so I can simply click on the copy button. I can go to the bottom of the page, add a section called draft project plan and copy the plan which Copilot have suggested me. And I could use this as the starting point to build on top of it. Next, we are going to learn about how can you rewrite text in OneNote with the help of Copilot. I have a sample resume file which I'm working on right now. And what if I want to get some suggestion on how I can frame it much better? So if this is the document you're working on and this is a section you want to rewrite, just select the section of the text which you want Copilot to work on and right click, and on the top click on Copilot. Copilot can do either summary or create a to-do list or rewrite. So what we are doing right now is to learn how you can use rewrite function. So click on rewrite. Copilot is working on the document or the particular portion of the document we just selected, and it is gonna give you a new version. And you could probably use this as a starting point. If you don't like it, you can discard it or you can keep it. At the same way, I'm just going to select some bullet points as well and right click, go to Copilot and click on rewrite. It changed the bullets into a nice paragraph based on all the content available in the bullet section. So this is great. Imagine if you are going through a marketing document or something like that, or like a product design document, and you didn't particularly like this section. Rather than you are breaking your head to do it, you can simply click on right click and click on rewrite. This is actually a really good option and very simple and effective as well. All right, so in this way, like Copilot actually summarized the whole section over here into a nice little paragraph which included all the data from this section. So I can click on keep it if you want to keep it, or you can delete it or modify it. The next what we are going to learn is how can you use the chat functionality in Copilot to ask more questions about your notes and research questions. So let's go to your OneNote and just pick a note where you want to ask certain question. Let's assume this is the document you're working on. You want to ask some specific questions about this particular document. And I have heaps of data. But if I want to extract some piece of information from this document, let's ask first question. Who are the stakeholders on this particular project? Click send. All right, so it says that it couldn't find information on the stakeholders on this project. Maybe I have to be a bit more specific about what I need. So I'm going to ask slightly a different prompt, but basically I want to get the same thing what I wanted. Who are the people responsible for the Contesto marketing implementation plan in this page? So click send. Hopefully this time Copilot can come up with an answer. All right, so this time I get a response. So according to this information on this page, people responsible for the implementation of Contesto are project manager, consultant, digital marketer, marketing manager, etc. So I have a section called implementation plan. So here you can see that the people responsible are project manager, consultant, digital creator, marketing manager, etc. It depends on how can you ask the right question to Copilot. The first question was who is the stakeholder on this project. It was quite vague for Copilot to get a response, but when I changed the question into different format, I got what exactly I wanted. The art of prompting is something which we all have to learn. Additionally, you could do few other things as well. So let me quickly show you some example prompts. I'm going to go to a new page. So I'm going to ask Copilot to create an Easter shopping list for an egg hunt. And I'm giving additional details like for a group of kids aged 6 to 12, include snacks, drinks, and activities. So click send. All right, so I got the response. Let's go and read about it. So rather than reading about it, I'm just going to quickly copy it and I'm going to paste it in the new page so we can read it clearly. So here is the Easter egg shopping list. You can see that it included plastic Easter eggs, small toys because we mentioned about age of the kids, chocolate candy to fill the eggs, Easter basket, and things like that. So if I want to quickly create this as the to-do list, all I have to do is right click, go to Copilot and click on to-do list. So that converts that list into a to-do list as well. And then now you have the shopping list. So when you start shopping, use the OneNote to complete the to-do list by checking these items. There are a few other things you can do as well. So I would encourage you to try your prompting skill on your OneNote. I hope you find the information useful. I will see you in the next video. Take care. You're watching Copilot Masterclass. In this episode, we are going to learn about how can you use Copilot in Loop. Let's begin. So let's go and learn how can Copilot for Microsoft 365 in Loop can help you get started with brainstorming, content drafting, and more. You can access Loop by going into loop.microsoft.com. Once you are inside the Loop, you can go to your workspaces or create a new workspace. I'm going to create Copilot in Loop workspace, and additionally you can invite members to collaborate as well. Click on create and click on create workspace. And once you are inside the Loop, you can start accessing Copilot by going into a new line and put a forward slash, and immediately you can see there is a draft page, content, summarize page, etc. So Copilot is already active in Loop. Another way of accessing Loop is to install this as an application. So you can click on this icon and launch Loop as an icon. So I've already installed Loop as an application and pinned to my taskbar. So click on open. So we're gonna use this app rather than the online version for the rest of the exercises. So I'm gonna quickly minimize the background browser. I'm gonna name this Loop page. I'm gonna name it as Copilot in Loop demo page. And to activate Copilot one more time, all I have to do is provide the forward slash. When you do that, it immediately opens options for you to create tables, checklists, and other stuff along with Copilot as well. So with Copilot, you have the option to either summarize the page. We are not going to use this because we don't have any data in this page to summarize. So I'm going to click on draft page content. So click on that. When you do that, it opens up this Copilot draft window. This is where you would be able to either create, brainstorm, blueprint, describe, etc. And on this chat window, you can ask Copilot to draft content, or you could click on these buttons for example. So let's click on this button called create. So I'm going to use this draft example. The example is draft a work ticket for an app that isn't responding when people try to zoom in. So let's click on send. Copilot is pulling things together. All right, so from nothing, we immediately got a draft. The title of the content is app not responding when zooming in. We have a description of the document, what are the steps taken to reproduce the item and things like that. So this is great. This is how you can quickly jump into a loop page and start a draft. So let's try a new example. So I'm going to select this component which loop just created using Copilot. I'm going to click on delete. This time again, I'm going to select one line and put a forward slash. Click on draft page with the content. This time I want to ask Copilot to draft an agenda. So type in draft an agenda, and I want to include more details as well. So I'm going to provide additional details like include welcoming our new members, discussion of the new product, and planning our launch event, and click on send. All right, so this time based on our prompt was to create an agenda. So Copilot actually created an agenda with some bullets, and it included the details about informing the team about the meeting and things like that. So that's great. So that's how you can create it. Now let's use some example for brainstorming. So I'm gonna click on this insert, click on draft page with content. Instead of create, we are gonna click on brainstorm. So we could go ahead and ask Copilot to create a brainstorming strategies to attract new customers using social media. So let's see what Copilot is going to come up with. So here we have some strategies to attract new customers using social media, and we have 7 points as well. So I don't want to read it, but if for some reason if I don't like what it is written, I can always ask Copilot to rewrite it. So rather than asking Copilot to rewrite it, I'm going to ask Copilot to add additional strategies. Let's see if this picks up. So click on send. So we have already 7 points available. What I'm looking for is more pointers from Copilot. Again, it gave me a new strategy, but gave me in a different format. And this time we have strategies like post consistently at the right times, engage with followers, things like that. So it's really good. So it goes and rewrite the statement. Copilot gave me good strategies as a starting point to engage with my customers or attract new customers using social media. Let's try the next example. I'm going to quickly click on this and delete this section. Delete and delete. Let's try the third example. Slash, this time click on draft the page content. This time let's select blueprint. Let's ask Copilot blueprint steps for a product launch and click send. Again, you got some blueprints on some key steps in launching a new product. These steps include defining a target market, conducting market research, develop a unique value proposition, things like that. These are some great points to start off your loop page. And we have one more section in the draft. So let's go back to the draft page content. We have a new option called describe. So if you want to describe something, this is an example. So describe the importance of two-factor authentication to a kid. Oh, that's an amazing one. Click send. All right, so I'm super excited to read this. So two-factor authentication is like having two locks on a door. It makes it harder for someone else to get into your stuff. Imagine if someone found the key to your diary and they could read all your secrets. If you had a second lock, like a secret code that only you knew, it would be harder for them to get in. That's what two-factor authentication does for your online accounts. So this is really great. So now I can go and explain two-factor authentication to my 14-year-old daughter. So that was a quick example on how you can use Copilot to draft or create new content for you in your loop. You can either create, brainstorm, blueprint, or describe. In the previous example, we have seen how can you use Copilot as the starting point to draft, create, brainstorm, things like that. In the next example, we are going to learn what if you have some content and tables available in a loop page. What can you use Copilot for? Let's have a look into that. So I just created a loop page which includes some blurbs about a marketing plan for a company called Contuso. It included some company information, objective strategies. Table includes some budget and cost analysis, implementation plan, etc. We're going to use this document to ask some questions to Copilot. So you can basically click anywhere. As long as you click a new line, this option will appear, / to insert. You can either type / or you can click on this. It opens up this section. So I can start going into the document and click on summarize this page for me. So click on summary. So Copilot is combing through the data available in this particular page and it is pulling the things together. All right. So based on the data available, you can see that it provided a bullet points on what this document is all about. It tells that this document is a marketing plan for Conteso. Who are their target market? What are their objectives? What's their total budget? So it included good information from all the section in this document. Additionally, if you want to rewrite with Copilot, you can ask Copilot to rewrite. So let me ask Copilot, rather than bullet, I want to rewrite this as a paragraph. So click on send. Hopefully Copilot will consolidate all these 10 bullet points and rewrite into a paragraph. All right, that's fantastic. So the same content is rewritten into a paragraph. Again, I can go back and further add more modification and tweaks on what I need. If you don't like what it is done here, you can always click on this undo button. Or what if we have a lot of changes, you can always click on the previous prompt and that immediately shows you what it was before. So that is always good in terms of reviewing or going back to understand the previous state. Let's ask some other question to Copilot. So rather than rewriting it, I'm going to go back to a new section. I'm just going to type in /, click on draft this page content. I'm going to ask a question. I know that this is a marketing document, but I'm not sure whether this is even going to work. I'm going to anyway ask Copilot to compile a table of pros and cons using the information from this page and click send. Wow, this is amazing. So it scanned through the whole document and it gave me a pros and cons on the marketing strategy based on the content available in this document. So let me quickly read one or two examples. One of the pros which Copilot identified is the marketing plan is comprehensive. It outlines clear strategies, etc. But the con is the marketing plan may not account for changes in the market or unexpected challenges. So this is great. So if you are the marketing person who is creating the strategy, you could actually take all these input and consider it and modify the document. Wow, this is amazing. So let me go and ask one more question. So I'm going to click on /, click on draft the page with content. I'm going to ask find action items and deadlines from this page and click send. I don't even know whether there is an action item in this content because this is basically a marketing strategy plan. Yeah, I was totally right. So it says that there are no specific action items or deadlines mentioned in this content because I remember there was nothing I have seen along with that. However, there are some objectives that have time frames. That's amazing. Some objectives which had time frame included increase overall social media engagement, increase website traffic by 30%, aim for average rating of 4.5. These are amazing. So imagine this is like a 500-page document. I want to ask some intelligent question to gather some meaningful data out of it. Copilot is the best tool available right now to do that. This is next level. The next what we are going to learn is how can you use Copilot to recap changes, especially when you are collaborating on a document and there are so many changes happening in the page, but you want to quickly go and recap the changes what it is made on that document. How can you do that with the help of Copilot? So let's see how it is being done. So Copilot with Microsoft 365 in Loop makes it easier to create and edit content with your teammates in real time. But sometimes it's very hard to keep track of what changes have made and why they are made. So with the help of Copilot, you can gain the summary of the content changes to avoid confusion, misunderstanding, or duplicate work. We have used this particular page for the last example. So let's see if Copilot can pick up some modification in the document. I don't have anybody else collaborating with me, so there is no way I can track that. I'm the only one adding the content and I haven't shared with anybody. But let me show you where you can actually find the recap button. So when you open the page, you can go to the far right corner, which is next to the share button. So share button gives you an option to share this page or a link to this page to somebody to collaborate with. So there is an ellipsis next to it. So click on this and you can find there is an option called recap. So click on this recap option. So you can see that there are no recaps yet. But when you create a recap, it will appear here. And when you do that, you can get summaries of the changes what anybody have made. You can mention people when they made any change, and you can stay up to date when there is any change. So click on create new recap. I'm going to mention myself. I'm going to tell that I've added pros and cons and click on post. So if somebody is collaborating on this document, this is where they can come and actually see the recap of all the changes. Additionally, you can click on the version history. This is where you can see the different versions modified on this document. So if I want to restore to a previous version, select the point where you want it to restore and click on the restore button. Once you confirm it, it goes back and change and modify back to the point where you selected. So from this document, the loop component what we created is been restored or deleted because we selected that option. Now if I go back to recap, our recap is also gone because we restored the document before we created the recap. Now let's go and learn some additional loop prompt examples. So let's quickly go back to your loop. I'm going to create a new blank page. I'm going to name it as test. Click on insert and draft page content. And I'm going to ask Copilot outline how to write a good blog post for my team project. And on top of it, you can give additional context as well. And I'm adding an additional prompt, make it funny, and click send. All right, so Copilot is given me a good sample, which included tips like start with a catchy title, use humor to engage your audience, provide valuable information, use images and visuals, things like that. This is really good starting point. Let's try one more prompt. So here again, I'm going to ask Copilot to draft something. This time I'm going to ask, create a new mission statement for a new marketing team. Click send. What if you are working with a bunch of people, putting your head together to create a marketing plan? So let's see what Copilot can come up with. At least a good starting point. All right, so a mission statement for a new marketing team could be, our team is committed to providing innovative and engaging marketing strategies to drive results to connect with our audience. We strive to be more creative, data driven, and customer focused. Right, it looks like a typical marketing vision statement. Okay, I can say Copilot to, I'm going to ask Copilot to rewrite to make it concise. Click send. Copilot is pulling things together. All right, so the statement, which in the previous example, it was like a 3-sentence one. When I selected the rewrite to make it concise, it gave me a 1-line statement. Our mission is to drive business growth through creative data-driven marketing strategies that engage and connect with our audience. This looks like much better to me than the first one. So the idea what I was trying to portray here is, rather than just asking and just keeping what you get, you can always refine it and change it, ask further question to modify until you get the required result. Let's use one more example. I'm going to delete what we have created. Again, click on insert, draft the page content. So this time I'm going to ask, create a travel itinerary exploring India. Let's see if Copilot can come up with an initial draft, which I can work on top of and modify based on where I'm going to travel, things I would like to consider, things like that. All right, so it gave me a good starting point with 7-day plan. It's covering like 7 different places. I don't even know logistically that is possible, but at least it gave me pointers like when you arrive at what you can do in that particular city. That is great. So again, this is a good baselining before I start working on it. I could either click on this Copilot and ask further question to include timelines, include logistical possibilities, things like that. So you can definitely go and try that. So I'm going to delete it and let's try one more prompt. So this time click on insert, draft on the page. I'm going to ask Copilot to create a set of interview questions to ask someone with a background in cloud computing. So click send. So what I'm looking for here is, before an interview, I want to have some set of questions which I potentially would like to ask. Hey, can you describe the experience of cloud computing platforms? How do you approach architecture, cloud-based solution, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea, right? This is a good starting point if you are trying to get something really fast rather than you breaking your head to do it. All right, so that's a quick look on how can you use Copilot in Loop. I will see you in the next episode. Take care. You're watching Copilot Masterclass. In this episode, we are going to learn about how can you use Copilot in Whiteboard. Let's begin. First, let's go and learn how can you use Copilot in Whiteboard to spark new ideas. You can access Whiteboard by going into whiteboard.microsoft.com and log in with your organization's credentials. This is where you would be able to access your Whiteboard. Additionally, you can download an app as well. So go to the Microsoft Store, search for Whiteboard, and download the Microsoft Whiteboard. So click on Get. It's downloaded. You can launch it or pin to start. I'm going to pin to start and click on Open. So you can use Copilot in either the rich client, which is what we just downloaded from the App Store, or you could use Copilot in the online version as well. All right, so let me maximize it. You can see your existing whiteboards here. If you want to work on this particular document with the help of Copilot, you can click on this. So for this exercise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the home page and click on New Whiteboard. All right, so when you open a blank whiteboard, Copilot launches by default and it asks you, do you want to start with the whiteboard with the help of Copilot? So I'm going to ask Copilot to suggest inexpensive ways to optimize our website for organic search and click send. All right, so based on our question, I got like few suggestions. Suggestions like utilize long tail keywords, optimize images for speed, implement internal linking structure, use meta tags and description, create valuable content, etc. So if I like these suggestions, I can click on insert, or I can click on regenerate more, or I can go and click on edit and add more things to the prompt. So I'm going to edit, I'm going to add more things to the prompt. The additional data I have given to the existing prompt is to optimize our website for search engine optimization and click send. All right, so additionally, I got one more suggestion as well to ensure mobile friendliness. So if I like these suggestions, all I have to do is click on insert. If I don't like any particular suggestion, I can click on cancel that and delete a particular suggestions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on insert. All right, so it inserted the suggestions what provided by Copilot. Now I can start working on the content. And once you get it, you can click on the color picker to change the color. You can modify the style, you can add comment, etc. At the same time, you have the Copilot button as well. So you can click on suggest. So if you want to further modify it and you could add more data, all you have to do is click on suggest again, and that opens up Copilot one more time. Here you would be able to click on generate more. It created additional sections as well. So in the previous document, we only had like 1, 2, 5, and now we have 12 suggestions. So I can click on insert the additional content. So now I have a good starting point for an inexpensive way to optimize the website, which is optimized for search engine as well. Now with all these data available, I can collaborate, brainstorm with my team to come up with a solid plan to optimize my website for search engines. Now that we have used Copilot to create some idea on your blank whiteboard, now let's go and learn how can you organize your ideas using Copilot in Whiteboard. Additionally, if you want to categorize these sections or the topics what you have created, you can select a bunch of topics you have created and you can click on categorize, and Copilot will go ahead and categorize these notes for you. All right, so now it quickly aligned these notes what we have built into different color, and it created a new category as well. So it says that there is a section for on page, there is a section for off page, there is a section category for content, and there is a section for mobile. So now we can divide the task and work with the team to realign it and focus on different section. If you don't like what Copilot have done, you can always click on revert, or you can click on regenerate as well. So that can go ahead and create in a different format. So this time it changed the categories into one page SEO, content creation, link building, and mobile optimization. This is fantastic. So I'm going to keep it, click on keep it. So that's how you can start from a blank page and get a good starting point to start working on the project what you are intend to do. Now let's go and learn what if you have a lot of content in your whiteboard and you want to understand what you're working on, or you want to get a quick summary of what you're working on. Let's go and learn how to do that. So let's assume this is the page you're working on. with lots of your teammates. Everybody is collaborating in it, and you invited a new person into this particular workbook. And before giving a rundown, that particular person want to get an idea about what it is being done, what are you guys working on. That person can click on this Copilot and click on summarize. So we looked into suggest and categorize. For anybody new coming in who doesn't have any context of what it is, they can always click on summarize. So Copilot is going to look through the data which is available in this particular workbook, and it is going to summarize the data for it. All right, it tells me who are the participants. In this document, it's only me. That's why it is only shown my name. When it is being created, how many ideas generated. It says that there are 17 ideas. The main theme of this whiteboard session is for SEO optimization, content improvement, user experience, media optimization, things like that. And these are the things which is discussed. This is absolutely amazing. So I can always click on keep it. What it's going to happen is it's going to create a loop component, and it's going to create within this whiteboard itself. So anybody new coming in, they don't even have to go through it, and you can always go and add new data to it. So that's how you can get quick summary of the document. Now let's go and learn some additional whiteboard prompt examples. So let's go back to your whiteboard, and I'm going to start a new whiteboard here and select the Copilot and click on suggest. And I'm going to ask a new prompt. Suggest common questions that can be asked to get a retrospective started with my colleagues. So click send. All right, so it gave me a good starting point. Some suggestions include what went well, what needs improving, what's holding back, and things like that. I can click on insert. Once you have these cards inserted, you can of course go and click on categorize so that it can align it based on different categories. All right, so now we have 4 different sections. One section for improvement question, one section for challenges, one section for learnings and actions. Absolutely great. If you don't like it, you can always click on regenerate, and it can come up with a new idea or a different perspective of looking into the same data as well. So this time it categorized into success, improvements, barriers, and learnings. All right, I'm going to keep it. Let's try one more prompt. Go to new whiteboard. Let's do something fun. So let's ask a prompt. Brainstorm a list of character names for an animated movie based in the year 3023, and click send. So I got like 6 names. So click insert. Zion, Xander, Nova, Aurora, Luna, Atlas, etc. So I can click on categorize as well. Let's see what Copilot comes up with the categorization. All right, so the character names and unusual names. I don't know what does it mean by unusual name. Let's click on regenerate. All right, so first name, space themed, elemental, mythical. This is much, much better. I get these names based on themes as well. This is absolutely amazing because these names are categorized based on themes. Let us go and try one more prompt. I'm going to go back to whiteboard, click on Copilot, click on suggest. I'm going to ask Copilot to suggest as Chief Compliance Officer ways to define compliance protocol in my company. Click send. I get some suggestions. I can insert it. Suggestions include identify applicable regulations, establish internal policy guidelines, review and update protocols, etc. I'm going to quickly categorize it. And this is another great starting point where these suggestions are categorized into regulations, internal policy, training, risk assessment, etc. I hope the information was helpful. I will see you on the next one. Take care. You're watching Copilot Masterclass. In this episode, you're going to learn about how can you use Copilot in forms. Let's begin. First, let's go and learn how can you suggest survey content in forms using Copilot. You can access forms by going into forms.microsoft.com. You can either use the online version. To access Copilot, click on new form. By default, Copilot will appear when you start creating a new form, or you can install forms as an app. So click on this app icon. So you can install forms as an app and click on install. Once you install it, you have an option to pin it to your taskbar or start. I'm going to allow that so I can access it from my taskbar. So let me go and minimize this. So we are going to use this forms in the app version to test the Copilot functionality. So you can use this Copilot option within forms to start generating a complete survey based on your purpose and objective, including the survey title, survey description, questions, and option. If you don't know where to start, you can always click on view prompt. So that will give you some options and suggestions where you can start. Or you can simply go ahead and type your prompt on what type of survey you want to create. I'm going to provide a prompt to create an employee feedback survey for the HR department to assess employees' job satisfaction and find areas for improvement. After you provide the prompt, click on generate. So this is where Copilot is going to create a form with relevant title for this topic and a survey description to explain the purpose of it, a list of open-ended and choices question to understand employee satisfaction on the company, managers, colleagues, work-life balance, benefits, and any other areas of improvement. So you could go through these questions, and if you are satisfied with it, you can click on keep it, or you can always go and click on this button. This will allow you to regenerate one more time. So Copilot is going and regenerating the content one more time in a different format and different style. So after reading it, if you want to add additional details, this is where you can provide additional details to fine tune your existing draft. So I'm going to ask Copilot to add additional two more questions. So now we have total of 10 questions. So let's see if Copilot can add two more questions. All right, so that's how you can modify your existing draft to add or modify something what you need. So now we have two more questions. So this looks pretty good starting point for me to just start off the work. So if I like it, I can click on keep it. So that's going to generate the form for me. Now that Copilot have added some rating questions, some comment box questions, some option questions and all, now it is asking the form is ready to go. Now it's time for us to select a theme. So I'm going to select this particular theme and click on keep it. And if you like to reorder these questions, you can always click on these and we can move these questions around. And you can double click on these questions to delete it or change the order, or you can make these questions mandatory and things like that. If you feel like adding more questions, you can always click on add. Again, choose your preference, choice question, text box question, rating, ranking, selection, etc. Once you are happy with it, click on preview. So this is how the survey is going to look like. All we have done is basically ask Copilot to create a survey for us, and we just moderated the question what Copilot provided. Within like 10 or 15 seconds, we have a complete form with the survey ready for an employee feedback. So let's see how it's going to look like. Click on start now. A user can basically go through this survey and provide their feedback, type in their responses, and they will be able to submit. Because we have not made any question mandatory, that's why I was able to submit it without answering some questions. And let's check the mobile view. Click on submit another response. This is how it's going to look like in a mobile. All right, so I'm happy with it. So let's go and prompt a few common practice questions so that we can understand what type of baseline responses Copilot gives us. So in the last example, we used the employee feedback survey. Let's use a couple of new prompt. So go back to form, click on new form. Let's use another prompt. This time I'm going to put in customer experience research related survey. Click on generate. Ideally, what I'm looking forward to is to gain some questions based on customer experience research based questions. So typically customer experience research based questions should include who is the customer, what's their age, appropriate age, their gender, how often they use the product, what's their satisfaction with your product or service, how likely they are going to use this product, how did they hear about the product, what type of a rating they would provide for this particular product, and what other feedback they would like to share about the experience about the product. So again, this is a great starting point if I'm trying to create a customer experience research type form to collect a particular feedback. I can always add more question like the previous example and add more questions or refine this experience, or I can simply keep it or delete it. So I'm going to delete it. Let's try something new. This time I'm going to ask about an event feedback survey. Let's assume you had an event and post event you want to send a survey to everyone. but you don't know where to start. What are the baseline questions you want to ask? So let's see what type of questions Copilot come up with, and if I like it, I can use that for my post-event survey. So if I don't like any questions, I can always go and delete it. Questions are like, what was the name of the event you attended? Let's assume it was a conference and you had so many events. You are trying to gather which event a particular attendee liked. These sort of questions are helpful. How did you hear about the event? How would you rate the event overall? How satisfied you are with the venue? This is a great question. How do you rate the speaker or presenter? And a couple of questions like, what did you like about the event and what did you least like about the event? These are great set of beginner questions for an event feedback survey. Let me go and delete it, and let's try one more prompt. This time I'm going to ask for a question related to a volunteer registration form. Let's assume you are creating a volunteer program. You want some volunteers to register, but you want to have some sample question to ask before signing up these volunteers. Cool. Looks like Copilot created 10 questions. So basically, for a volunteer, you want their full name, email address, their phone number, their current occupation, what's their availability like? Is it weekend, weekdays, evening, mornings, things like that? What are the skills they do have so that you can appropriately place them? What type of volunteering are they interested in? This is again an amazing set of questions which somebody can actually use as a starting point before creating their form and survey. And finally, let's look at how can you use Copilot to visualize your service style. We kind of seen this in the first example. So let's have a look at this and finish it off. So once you finish with your questions and you're happy with the content which is available, click on keep it. So that's going to provide these questions in a format which is appropriate for the form. And once Copilot completed, you could actually go and visualize it by selecting the theme. Depends on what theme you like. You click on keep it and Copilot will add that theme. And on top of the form, you can click on this preview button that helps you preview or visualize how this form will work once somebody start putting in the details. So once I submit it, I can go and click on save my response and go back to this response to gain understanding about how the response was. Once you start collecting more details, you can use these charts and information available to gather more insights. You gain additional details like how much time it typically takes for a particular person to complete the survey. Once you have enough responses, you can open the result in an Excel file. So all the data is consolidated. You could use pivot table to export it and things like that. To summarize it, you could use Copilot in Forms to create surveys that are relevant, engaging, and effective. So I hope the information provided in this video was helpful. I will see you on the next one. Take care. Hello, everyone. Today we have a guest, first time guest in our channel. His name is Andre. He works at Microsoft. I will let him introduce himself and we are going to look into Copilot for security today. Hey, Andre.
Hey, Sushan. Hey, everyone.
Hey.
My name is Andre. I'm a security technical specialist at Microsoft New Zealand. And for the past few months, I've been working with my team on scaling up on my Copilot for security. Just this week, I became a Copilot for security champion. And I'm excited to share what's available on the platform and what is the benefits for you as a SOC analyst.
That's awesome. Thanks, Andre. The format today is very light. I myself don't know anything about Copilot for security, so I'm gonna ask a bunch of questions to Andre about like educating myself. So at the same time, you yourself can learn what is Copilot as well. So Andre, before we begin, how can the audience reach out to you if they want to touch base with you and understand what you do yourself?
Good question, Sushan. So I keep a channel on YouTube. It's called Cloud and Sec with Andre Camillo. I share some of these tips on my channel, but I also am very active on LinkedIn and on my blog through Medium. So if you guys want to reach out, I'll send a link to the description for you to put in.
Awesome. So what I will do is I'll mention Andre's YouTube channel, his LinkedIn, and his amazing blogs where he posts all these security related content. So you can always reach out and follow him for additional details on anything related to security or Microsoft technology products. All right, Andre, it's over to you. So educate me on what is Copilot. What is security for Copilot? Or is it Copilot for security?
That's a good start.
Let's start there.
Yeah. Initially, we announced the product as Security Copilot.
Yeah.
And for the past few months, up
Yeah.
until January, we were calling it Security Copilot. But
Yeah.
uh, there was a shift in the naming of all our Copilot brand products. And
Yeah.
now we're calling it Copilot for Security.
Copilot
Very
for
similar.
security, not security for Copilot.
Perhaps I can show you what it looks like and what's the experiences that SOC analysts can essentially go through when using it. What do you think?
100%. So we are super excited. I'm super excited to see it for
Awesome.
the first time.
All right, so let's go ahead and understand a little bit more about how to set it up and what what's the charging or charge of the service like. There's two important things to understand here. Okay, so the first thing I want to showcase is how to create the needed capacity for Copilot for Security. Copilot for Security is an Azure service. Okay, so that's
Mhm.
important to understand.
So
But
users have to go to Azure portal first to access it.
there's two ways.
Okay.
This through Azure is a viable
Yeah.
option, absolutely. So that's what I'm showcasing on screen right now.
Okay.
If you go to Azure and look for Copilot for
Yeah.
Security, you're going to see Copilot for Security Compute Capacities. This is a new
Yeah.
service in Azure, just went to GA 1st of April.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. When you get here, you can create what we call the compute unit for Copilots for Security to work. And that's fundamental for it to essentially start working because what you consume is this compute units per hour. Okay.
Okay.
Now, so first thing we need to do is create our Copilot for Security compute unit. We go ahead and set up my resource group here. When we're creating a capacity, we do have a choice of 4 locations to process your prompts. This is very important from a, well, data processing perspective, legality perspective, understanding where possible customer data is going to, if you are dealing with any of that in your SOC. So then you can choose between US, Australia, Europe, or UK. There is a burst checkbox that you can choose if you want
Mhm.
to perhaps use another location in case that preferred location is at capacity.
Mhm.
And finally, the last thing you need to set up here is the number of security compute units, which the minimal amount is 1, and
Okay.
it can go up to 100 of them.
So
Now,
compute unity is like a server instance in the backend, like
yeah,
a config.
it's
Okay.
it's similar because a server instance,
Yeah.
it's just potentially just some processing power as well,
Right.
right?
Right.
If we think about it at a very low level.
Right. So can we know like what's a single compute unit represents? Like is it like a bunch of CPU and a RAM, a combination of that? So how does
Great,
somebody know what is a one compute unit mean?
great question, Sushan.
Yeah.
Secure compute unit is a range of all of these
All of
different
that. Yeah.
all of compute capabilities that we offer in order
Yeah.
to process tokens, if you will,
Yeah.
from a large language model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's
Awesome.
yeah. So just a little more details on that.
Yeah.
It's very important to understand that a secure compute unit doesn't mean you're going to get a specific amount of prompts that you can send to the platform, or it doesn't grant you necessarily just 1 hour of view use.
Yeah.
Although you're paying per hour, as it's detailed here,
Yeah.
4 USD dollars per SCU per hour,
Yeah.
you might consume that compute unit in a lot less time if you're using with very complex prompts, for example. So
Mm-mm.
it's a little more nuanced than just compute per hour. Okay, yeah. So from here, you have to choose how many of these SCUs you want.
Yeah.
If you're just using for tests, start with 1.
Yeah.
For customers, that varies, but the recommendation varies per customer and the size of the SOC and how many analysts are
Yeah.
using Copilot for security.
Right.
Now,
If we
this
go to Azure pricing calculator,
yes,
can we know how much it is going to cost? You're going to show that as well.
we can go there,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But as you can see here,
Yeah.
we have an estimated monthly cost at the bottom.
Oh, nice.
If I
Oh, now I can
increase
see it much better.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, there we go. it'll multiply that versus the amount of SCUs
Yeah.
that we have.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this estimated monthly cost is assuming that we have this SCU provisioned for 24 hours for the
Mm.
entire month, right?
All right.
Now, what happens is you can automate. There's a lot of MVPs and Microsoft employees who are creating ways to utilize essentially logic apps to create and delete capacities
Mm, mm, mm.
according to a schedule. So that monthly cost would actually go down because you're deprovisioning when you don't need it, and
Mm, mm.
that's an important concept as well, right? So this estimated is only if you leave this SEU provisioned for the entire month.
Month.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if you use it or not, you're gonna pay for
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction because generally in consumption we talk about using a resource and consuming and being charged for the consumption.
Yeah.
Copilot for Security is actually a provision model. So we provision it per hour. So if you provision for this hour, at the time I acknowledge that I have understood the
Yeah.
agreement
Yeah.
and I reveal and create, I'll start getting billed essentially, even
Okay.
if I don't use it.
Okay.
Yep. Now, let me go ahead and enter one, reveal and create. After I do that, after a few seconds, um, the SCU will be provisioned to my tenant.
All right.
Now, what you're going to see on screen here is the next step. Okay, so since we created this unit in Azure, we have
Yeah.
to take this next step. This next step is essentially a pivot to the dedicated Copilot for Security portal. Okay,
Okay.
um, now if you remember before I started doing all of that in Azure, I mentioned there were two ways to create Copilot for Security capacity.
Yeah.
The first one was Azure, like I mentioned,
Yeah.
but you can also do it directly from this portal. Okay.
Yeah.
But since we did it in Azure, we have to pivot to this portal to finish off the setup. So that's the
Right.
one caveat when you're doing it from Azure. Yeah. If you
Okay.
do it directly from here, you don't have to pivot that way. This
Yeah.
is what the screen would look like, yeah, if I
Yeah.
didn't have any capacity. So I would be
Right.
able to create the same things right from here.
Right. Uh, if I could ask one more question,
Yeah.
if anybody is in the security team in their organization, if they want to do it, do they need a special Azure permissions required to perform this task?
That's a great question. They will need administrator and privileged access to create the SEO. Yes.
Right.
And
What sort of an
after
administrator? Security administrator is fine.
Yeah, security
Oh, okay.
administrator is fine because as a matter of fact, when you create the resource and you stand up Copilot for security for the first time, let me
Yep.
do that right here. What we're going to see is the people have access to the platform. Okay,
Yep.
and why this ties in very well with what you're saying is after we provision the SEU, we set it up within
Yep.
Copilot for security. We can come into owner settings
Yep.
and I can see, well, essentially, sorry, we can go into role assignment
Yep.
and we can see all the people who have access to manage the billing
Right.
within owner. And it says here, essentially, well, you need Azure contributor,
Mm-hmm.
but also security administrator and global administrators there's can do that too.
Okay.
And when we also first set up a Copilot for security, we're going to have contributors. And by default, what we currently have is all of the organization have access as contributor. So I had originally a third option in here, which was all of my organization.
Mm.
But I think the recommendation would be to just remove that because when you have that enabled, Copilot for Security will be available widespread to anyone who have security reader roles, for example. Right? That's what's in contributor, and
Okay.
what that means is when they start creating or opening up portals such as Entra, potentially Purview,
Mm-hmm.
when the embedded experience is available, they're going to start seeing the embedded experience. Perhaps from here we can have a look at what Copilot for Security looks like,
Yep.
and in the standalone, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so what you're seeing on screen is what we call this standalone Copilot for Security portal,
Yep.
and from it, this is where you can get the most value out of it as an operator, if you will. And why I say that is because from here, you can go straight into past sessions that you've interacted with Copilot for Security.
Yeah.
So
So
everything
does
you're
it
seeing on screen.
does it retain all the information? How long does it retain?
Yeah, great question. It retains sessions for up to 90 days. And
Okay.
yeah, it's very important to say this because you notice I just provisioned this new SCU, and
Correct.
yet all of the past sessions are still kept in here.
Right.
I started using it on the first day, as you can see,
Right.
but all of my past sessions are here. And if I wanted to continue working on them with this new SCU, I can, in
Yeah.
fact, right? So
Right.
I can just open any of them up and
Right.
then continue my investigation. Yeah.
So for my understanding, so your past sessions are the one which you prompted something and got some responses. Is that the session what you mean?
Great question, too. So,
Yeah.
what are sessions?
Yeah.
Yes. So, we can create manually. Sorry. We can manually create sessions. You can see
Yeah.
on screen here.
Yeah.
But we can also, when we're investigating incidents in Defender XDR, it's going to generate sessions whenever we open up an incident.
Okay.
So, that's also considered a session. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
For example,
Yeah.
and let me pivot to what we call the embedded experience, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about sessions here. Like I said, you can manually create it from this standalone portal. But if I were a SOC analyst dealing with Defender XDR, so let me jump into Defender XDR portal. So what you're seeing is the Defender XDR portal.
Yeah.
If I, as an agent or analyst, open up any of these incidents, when I have an SCU, Copilot for Security Compute Unit enabled, I'm going
Yeah.
to get the Copilot experience, the embedded experience, right? So you can see
Right.
it's automatic, right?
Right. Oh, this
Now,
is very nice. Yeah.
yeah. And why it's so important to bring this up when I'm talking about sessions is because when I jump back into this standalone and I refresh the list, we're going to see a new session in here, and that's just been created. As you can see, the guided response, like I said, this
Yeah.
is one session,
Yeah.
and the incident summarization is another session. So
Right.
that's important. So if I open any of them up in the standalone,
Yeah.
I can continue that session. I can send natural language prompts and text to better interact with it.
This is great. So now we know where to kickstart a Copilot for security, and then what are the sessions are. How can you like use this to investigate something?
Sure.
Can you
Yeah.
show a typical use case scenario where somebody is actually going and using this to investigate something?
Yeah. Okay, Sushan. So there's two ways for you to use it naturally. You can continue the investigation from what I just showed you
Yeah.
from Defender XDR. So
Yeah.
imagine I'm hunting, I'm going through an investigation, I see Copilot pop up. From here, I can essentially pivot to the standalone portal.
Yeah.
This is when I open in Copilot for Security.
Yeah.
It would just open the same information and session in Copilot for Security.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great way to continue an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think from a broader perspective, how would then I start interacting with the tool and making the most out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start a new session. Let's go to My Sessions
Yeah.
and let's create a new session. There you go. So this is a new session from scratch.
Yeah.
There's no incidents, nothing in here. So what can I do with Copilot? Now the tool, it's well essentially a prompt bar at
Yeah.
the bottom,
Yeah.
and there are a few icons in here, and they aim to make the SOC analysts understand more what they can do, right? So
Yeah.
within prompts, we actually get a list of everything that the system can do. Okay, so that's great for anyone that's starting out and that wants to know what they can do with the new session. For example, they starting from scratch. What can they
Yeah.
do? Look, with there's essentially. Let me scroll. There we go. There's just some important information here at the top. There's two things that we can learn from the prompts: all the system capabilities. So it's a long list of everything that the system can do.
Yeah.
So you can search for anything. If you want to look about users, you just type in users and you see what potential activities you can do right from here. Or you can also check out the prompt books. Now, I didn't talk about prompt books yet.
Yeah.
Prompt books are like I briefly mentioned it. So
Yeah.
essentially, there are chained prompts that have been created by either Microsoft or
Yeah.
your organization, or even
Mhm.
just yourself for your own workflow. And you
Right.
can summon these prompt books to act however you want them. It's
Yeah.
an automation of sorts.
Is
So
one more follow-up question to that prompt book. Can I access prompt books created by external users or external party, like other organization I can bring in? Or is it when I create and save it, it's just my prompt book? Like, oh, right, there's a
yeah,
library.
there is a library. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. So this is everything that's essentially created by default. I didn't
Yeah.
customize it in yet,
Yeah.
but you can see my prompt books, you can
Yeah.
see my organizations,
Yeah.
Microsoft's, and you could, well, essentially create tags to find whatever else you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these are open source essentially. You can create prompt books. If anyone shares their idea with you and their prompt book with you, you can replicate them here
Right.
essentially. There's not a store per se for prompt book, right?
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so but the community around Copilot for Security really be around the plugins,
Yeah.
and I was going to get to that on this next icon here on the prompt bar on how you can start interacting with it, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So let's go look into that first.
Yep. Cool. So also how you can get started, right? So what you're seeing on screen is really impressive, first and foremost, because I haven't set up anything beforehand, right? So
Hmm.
as soon as I enabled SCU, it automatically looked at my access, the access my user has, and it already turned on whatever I have access and whatever is enabled in my environment. So I already can prompt Copilot for Defender XDR, for Entra, for user information in Entra, for device information in Intune, for Sentinel information, and use other plugins or skills, if you will, right? Just by default. But as I scroll down, we can see other, and this is a long list that is always growing, by the way,
Hmm.
of external plugins that you can integrate into your Copilot. Now, this is going back to the community and how you can customize and bring information from other people from the industry. This would
Hmm.
probably be it, right? First and foremost, there are these other approved plugins, if you will,
Hmm.
but at the very bottom, you can add your customized plugins. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's important as well. So when we think of custom plugins, you can just use open source methods of LLM plugins, such as OpenAI JSON Manifest, or even a custom Copilot for Security plugin that is meant to be utilized and created your own plugin, if you will. Okay. So when we think about, hey, what else can we do, or how can the community act together to enhance the capability of Copilot for Security? That's the answer, right?
Oh,
So
that's great.
just yeah. So just you can upload your JSON file, and what that JSON will contain, of course, is a reference of actions and potentially third party and open source tools that your Copilot for Security will be able to access, right? So that's important to understand.
Right. There is no charges for these, adding a plugin and using it.
No, adding the plugin is free. It's included in the service,
Yeah.
if you will. However, think about whatever other infrastructure you're utilizing. That depends on what you're
Right.
doing, right?
Right.
If
Right.
you're using a service from another provider, you probably have to have that licensed.
Yeah.
Or if you're using a API for an open source, you
Yeah.
probably have to pay for that API key. So yeah. Another thing that I think it's great to know before you start prompting is
Yeah.
the files option, right? So this is in preview, as you can see screen,
Yeah.
but you can essentially upload files such as internal policy or guidelines that your SOC analyst should follow,
Yeah.
and you can summon them in your prompts. Think about potentially a guideline from NIST, for example, where you can upload that file and you can make questions to that file of course, in the prompt, and the answer you get, the recommendations you get, will be grounded on top of that file or policies that your organization has. So it's a
Hmm.
great way to make sure that Copilot is grounded or bound to your organization policies.
Okay.
Okay, as an example, I just uploaded a NIST document, so a
Yeah.
guideline for cybersecurity improvement, for example. This is a document from 2018, as you can see. And
Yeah.
well, from this point onwards, I can make questions and it will essentially leverage that for answers. Okay.
Right.
Now, once I set all of these up, I set my plugins, I set the files that I need to potentially use in my SOC processes. What I
Yeah.
need to do next is start prompting, right?
So the file is all the question is going to be grounded on that file which you uploaded, like the
So
questions.
you can reference it
Yeah.
essentially, usable by some of the questions you make. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when you're thinking about investigating on Copilot, there are good practices to prompting, right? And Microsoft makes this guidance available as well. Let me pull it up. Okay, so for you to learn how to prompt Copilot effectively, I highly recommend you have a look at this learn.microsoft.com content, describe Microsoft Copilot for security. One of the contents in here is describe the elements of an effective prompt. And this is it, right? So this image is great because it explains four components that you need to have in mind when you're creating a prompt. So try to be goal specific, know what you're trying to achieve and get to, understand the context and add context. Set the expectations. If you need a report, state what kind of report. Is it an executive report? Make sure you tell it about it. And lastly, the source. This is very important because it avoids Copilot for security from trying to find information in an irrelevant plugin, for example. It just
Yeah.
avoids potential prompts that are wasted, if you will. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, with all of these in mind, we can start prompting, right? So we just got to the office and I'm trying to learn what should I prioritize from my Defender XDR incident list, for example. So we can just ask it. Let's go ahead and do that. So just explaining a little bit of what I'm asking. I'm being very specific and contextualizing my ask, right? So I'm asking Copilot to to tell me what incidents I should prioritize from Defender XDR. So I'm calling out the plugin there. So that's good. I have a goal in mind. I have contextualized within incidents. And I said that I was specific about the representation. So create a list from high to low priority. Let's go ahead and send it. Now, when I send it, it's going to go through a number of checks and a number of processing methodology, which it's worth explaining. It's going to take some time, right? So, but it's all following the responsible AI approach that Microsoft has. All
Mhm.
that is in here follows the transparency that is included in the responsible AI model. So we can see the amount of time this is taking to respond, and
Mhm.
at every step, we are documenting the what Copilot for Security is doing. For example, the first thing it does is understand the prompt, understand what plugin it needs to connect to in order to answer for that prompt. In this case, it chose Defender XDR. Great. So I did my part correctly. It's also looking at the request itself. It's processing it however it's required. And then lastly, it's preparing that response by going to the LLM, large language model, and then
Yeah.
having the checks run on top of it. Yeah. So there you go. So you can expand each and every step to understand
Yeah.
what it's being done.
Yeah.
And you get a list that you asked for at the end, right? So here are the incidents you should prioritize today. It tells
Yeah.
me the incident ID. I didn't tell it to tell
Yeah.
me the incident ID, but great to see that.
Yeah.
Gives me a little bit of what's up with that particular incident, and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. And it's done from high severity to low, which is what I asked of it. And information is the last. Perfect.
Yeah. So
That's
typically, if I may ask you a question, so typically, if without Copilot for security, an agent would need to go to a dashboard and do it all by themselves. Imagine if they have like heaps of incident, there will be no clue where to start and what to prioritize, things like that, right?
absolutely the alternative to interacting with Copilot for security would actually have to potentially go through the list of Defender XDR
Right,
incidents.
right, right.
Um, yeah, or even looking at Sentinel or whatever other tools they use to
Yeah.
investigate.
Sometimes that can be overwhelming and you don't know where to start
Yes,
and things like that. Yeah.
that's right. So uh, that's a great question. So Copilot for Security comes in to help with being that interface that is looking at all that for the
Yeah.
analyst. Yeah. Now, what's also relevant from Copilot's standalone experience that I didn't get into yet is what can you do with this prompt, right? So you
Yeah.
can copy all of this prompt and share it however you want, wherever you want, of course. You can
Yeah.
export the response if it's relevant,
Yeah.
but you can also pin this response
All
to what
right.
we call a pin board. So this pin board is essentially a list of relevant prompts that you've interacted with Copilot for Security in this session, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is expected in large investigations you're going to go back and forth multiple times. You might want to pin the most relevant prompts from your investigation in here.
Right.
What this will also allow you to do is to share your session. So your session is not just yours; it might be your team's. So
Mm.
think about how you can, share this session with another analyst or an incident lead, someone that needs to have a look at what's being done, for example, or someone that just needs to access the session to create the next step. So perhaps they are responsible for creating the executive summary of what you're working on, right? So
Mm-hmm.
give them access. They'll be able to use Copilot for security to generate a executive summary, for example.
Right. That's great.
Yeah, and lastly, you can export the whole pinboard
Yeah.
through Word or email or copy the entire pinboard. So from here, Sushan, we could actually decide to start using prompt books, for example. So imagine the next step for me as an incident investigator or a SOC analyst is to actually dive deeper into this incident. So I know that the incident ID is 19119, and what I can start doing is leveraging prompt books. This is from me knowing what to do, right, with the platform. So I
Yeah.
can go into prompt books, call out this Microsoft 365 Defender, the old
Yeah.
name of Defender XDR,
Yeah.
for investigation, and I can then just enter the Defender incident ID. So each prompt book, as you can see here, can have inputs. So this input can be customized. So when you're creating your prompt book, you can tell it, oh, I want to enter whatever information you want, and then you can leverage that information elsewhere in your prompt chain, if you will. Okay, so in this case, I'm getting that Defender Incident ID, and I'm passing it through to my first prompt. My first prompt in this prompt book is to summarize the Defender incident, for
Yeah.
example. And then the second that's going to happen automatically as part of this prompt book is going to list out or tell about the entities associated. What are the reputation scores? So it's also leveraging other plugins. So Defender Threat Intelligence in this case. It's using Entra about the authentication mode. So see how prompt books are very powerful in terms of utilizing more than just one plugin. Whereas when you're prompting it, you have to be specific and you have to essentially gear your question towards one specific plugin. But
Mm.
with prompt books, you can actually be broader and wider in what you're trying to achieve, and of course, get more use cases, if you will, with much more information from many different plugins.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and run this particular prompt book.
Yeah.
Okay, so that prompt book is now all done. If I go back to the responsible AI steps here at the top, I can see that it took roughly 40 seconds. It chose incident analysis, process the request, prepare the response, and so on and so forth. Right, so see, you can see all the steps it took, and of course, we can see the relevant information and the output from it right here. Yeah. So from here onwards, it's going to continue the investigation as well. So as I scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see here the continuation of the prompt book, right? So you see the entities associated with that incident. It's a new
Mm-hmm.
prompt, as you can see here. Get all the information that we need. Uh, Further down, we can see the other steps, such as reputation scores for IP
Hmm.
addresses that are potentially reported in that incident. There might not be IP addresses, which is the
Hmm.
case for my incident, and it's going to go on and execute all those different prompts that I mentioned there at the beginning.
And can
Prompt
you
book,
ask follow-up question as well?
you absolutely can. After it finishes this chain of prompts here,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
gonna see how we're gonna still be able to use the prompt bar here to
Right.
ask follow up questions.
Right.
All right.
And I can see that when you hover your mouse over these sections, there is an edit option as well. Does that mean
Yep.
you can edit and modify the question and things like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
So
fantastic.
that can absolutely be done.
Yeah.
It generates. Well, you can edit the prompt and it'll generate a new answer for you. Of
Yeah.
course, this is this is not common to happen in prompt books, but
Yeah.
absolutely can. Imagine you have a prompt book that perhaps you have a prompt that needs to be slightly tweaked
Fine tuned. Yeah.
for, yeah, fine tuned. Perfect. And then you might want to do that. Exactly. Yep.
And if you're
So,
not happy with the response, you can, I think there is a refresh button. Is that a refresh button? If you just scroll up, if, yeah,
yeah.
what is next to the edit? Is it like you get different response?
So, yeah, the resubmit prompt is about
Resubmit
getting a
prompt.
different response from the
Yeah.
model.
Okay.
This is very important as well because we're dealing with generative AI technology. We're talking
Yeah.
about non-deterministic technology these days, right?
Yeah.
So generative AI
Can you
can
explain
generate
what
different
is a
responses.
non? Can you explain what is a non-deterministic
Yes.
technology? What is it?
Yeah. So essentially, it's the difference between, well, deterministic being you get A plus B and you get a result of C. So you're
Yeah.
always going to get the same response from
Yeah.
performing an action.
Yeah.
This is deterministic. Non-deterministic means you're giving an input
Yeah.
or different entries, and you might get different results each time, right? So it's non-deterministic. We don't know what
Yeah.
the answer will be because the processing is different. And this is, of course, uh, an effect of how embeddings and tokens work on the back end on the large language models
Oh, thank you, Andre. I learned something
and
new.
vectors. Cool. So it's still taking its time to go through everything in that prompt book. Now, after it's all done, like you said, I could continue to ask questions to Copilot for security, or to finally generate a summary report if I was satisfied what I've seen, and of course the actions I took. In my case, I haven't taken any actions yet.
Mm-mm.
Right? But I could go ahead and investigate, understand the spread of these files, understand. Well, I have the executive summary right here,
Yeah.
but I could understand what was the spread of that file, those files, what devices were impacted, and this is exactly what's being explained here in the executive summary. So this is what an investigation could potentially look like with Copilot for Security.
Yeah.
And there is additional steps, right, that would perhaps be relevant to your organization. So think about how you might need to, of course, represent this some other way to your manager or investigation lead, incident leads, and then you can do that. Of course, you can leverage Copilot to ask cybersecurity questions as well. So what I'm asking is an open-ended question. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't follow the best practices from prompts that we just saw a few minutes before, but I'm trying to learn a little bit about Copilot for security in this particular example. So the goal is open-ended as well. So the question I'm making is, what do you recommend I do next in this investigation as a SOC engineer? Just send it. And at this point, Sushan, we might need to have a look at the usage as well. I've already consumed my whole SCU,
Yeah.
right? So how long have we been using it? We've sent through 10 prompts or
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah. The book consumed pretty much, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. The prompt book with 7 odd prompts consumed most of it.
Yeah.
So I've already used it. Okay, Sushan. So something I think it's worth visiting before we finish off is understanding about the usage.
Yeah.
So we just saw us executing a prompt book, going through some incidents Defender XDR. Next is to understand what has been used on the back end when we were doing all that. And for this, we can go to the usage monitoring section of Copilot for Security.
Yeah.
So this here details essentially how many SCUs I have used each hour. Now, what's interesting here is, as we were just talking this morning, I've actually used zero point 0.8 SCUs in an hour, and for the last hour or so of conversation, we actually used a little more than what I'm allowed to. And this might happen. It allows a little burst. So it's reporting that I've used roughly 2.5 SCUs there. Now, the benefit of the portal is that you can keep track of your usage in your SOC per hour. These are 2 different hours. And at the bottom, you can see just a breakdown here of the unit usage as well. Okay. And if you need to burst it and you need to increase your capacity, you can do it from here too, right? So we can change the unit. Imagine I am going through an investigation and I absolutely need Copilot for security. I can increase that secure compute unit for that hour. I apply that new security compute unit, and that's hourly charge. It shows us the price per month as if we were going to continue to use those
Yep.
two per month 24/7. We don't have
Yep.
to. We can decrease that afterwards. Or if I'm happy with my investigations, I don't need Copilot. What I can also do is delete the SCU capacity so that I'm
Yep.
not charged for next hours on the day or on that month as well.
So, all
Yeah,
right. So let's assume if I have used it for my work and now I want to delete it, where do I go? What do I do?
sure. So you can delete your compute unit from Azure. Let's open up Azure Copilot for Security again.
Yeah.
We just do that. So back in Azure, what I can do is essentially delete the resource, right? So I can just choose the resource that I want to delete. I can have
Yeah.
multiple resources. If I have, for example, different SOC team members or units that I would like each of them to use different compute units,
Yeah.
I can have that done that way. But also, essentially, what you can do is just go ahead and delete this, right? So you delete the resource. And for the next hour and onwards, you won't be charged for
Charged.
Copilot for security. Yeah.
Right. Tell me about what this is, what it can do. How can I use it on day-to-day life at my work to secure my product or solutions, things like that?
Okay, thanks for asking, Sushan. So, in order for us to explain what Copilot for security is, I like to look at the challenges that we're trying to address. Now, what you're seeing on screen is actually the official documentation from Microsoft going through what Copilot for security is. And I highly recommend you have a thorough read through everything is in here. But
Yeah.
essentially, what Copilot for security is, it helps SOC analysts with their daily tasks. When we look at challenges that Copilot for security addresses, we're thinking of challenges that engineers and investigation leads in SOCs have to deal through daily. So when we're thinking about how Copilot for security can help with summarization of incidents, uh,
Mm-hmm.
addressing impact analysis of investigations that they're going through, reverse engineering scripts. We know that generative AI is great at analyzing, but also creating scripts, and reverse engineering scripts is a great use case for it.
Can
And
you
guided
please
response.
explain that bit, reverse engineering the script? What does it mean? Like, if somebody executed a script, it can understand like what are the paths it took. Um,
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, yeah,
This is definitely it. So if you send a script over to it,
yeah.
it's able to make sense of it and explain each section of that script. So for a
Wow.
junior analyst, yeah,
Yeah,
for a junior analyst that is unfamiliar with potentially PowerShell or whatever script that they
yeah.
have to analyze, that is a big time saver. Just still on how Copilot for security works, a little bit deeper into it, right?
Yeah.
This image is a great explanation of it. It's very
Okay.
detailed. I'm not going to
Yeah.
get into all the flow right now, but
Yeah.
imagine Copilot for security leverages the information that you currently have in your SOC,
Yeah.
and think of every information you have in your SOC. So not just Microsoft security technology. Think of potentially open source information that you're currently gathering from third-party plugins. That think of even other vendor solutions that we're creating plugins to work with Copilot for Security. All of those data sources can be
Hmm.
essentially plugged into Copilot for Security. And from an analyst perspective, Copilot will make it easier for them to, well, interact with all these different data sources. And I love that Copilot is that natural language layer of access into all these data sources, right? Something that is unparalleled and wasn't available until technology such as Copilot for Security came along. Now, when Copilot for Security has access to all these different data sources, it can reason over them. Copilot for Security is not just ChatGPT
Hmm.
for security, right? It's not just a fine tuned model for security. It's much more than
Hmm.
that. It is a complex AI system that utilizes different layers of approach to understand what you're asking in a prompt and
Hmm.
what plugins it should action at each stage.
Right.
Now, this image represents all that,
All
and
right.
it also highlights, and this is very important here, Sushan, the responsible AI layer that Microsoft embeds into all our products, all our AI products, right? I'm sure you talk a lot about it when you talk about Copilot for Microsoft 365. But essentially, responsible AI leads how we deliver some of the capabilities of Microsoft Copilot for Security, but it also is embedded into every output that the solution uh, creates. So
Right.
before an output is generated, there's always a check that is run on the output from the Azure OpenAI LLM that's used in the platform. As you can see, there's a representation here,
Yep.
and only after the check is run and no harm is actually found in the output, the response is sent back to your analyst.
All right, that was fantastic. Thank you so much, Andre, for giving us an overview. And for anybody who's trying to learn Microsoft Copilot for security, this is a great place to start. And thank you so much. Any closing thoughts?
No, look, I just appreciate your time, Sushan, and your invite. And for anyone wanting to learn more about Copilot for Security, always recommend the public resources from Microsoft. They're always up to date. They are the best resource for anyone trying to find out more about Microsoft's technologies, or of course your representative. Maybe I'm your representative. So yeah, reach out.
Yeah. Even though both of us work at Microsoft, none of the things what we have shared is what Microsoft's saying. It's our personal opinion about whatever we shared.
That is, yes, absolutely. These are my learnings, and nothing is confidential from this conversation. So, yeah.
Once again, thank you so much. This is the first guest I ever had in my channel. Hopefully, this is start of something new, and hopefully, we will be able to bring Andre in. If you have more questions, please let me know. I'm happy to bring him in for other topics as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sushan. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.